Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. I was out for a walk and then I panicked. I didn't have my phone with me. I panicked. I was like, "Oh no, am I gonna miss the meeting?" And luckily, I got back.
Well, there are panics and then there are panics. I was riding my bike 2 days ago, and when I got back, my cell phone was not in my saddlebag. My saddlebag was open. And so either I didn't put it in before I went on my ride, or I lost it early in the ride because they're bumpy, dirty dirt roads. So anyway, long and the short, someone found my cell phone
Phew.
and brought it to me.
And
So
brought it back to you.
one of my neighbors. So
Oh,
yeah,
good.
lucky me.
Yeah. Yikes. Did you know why the saddlebag would like how it could have opened? Who knows?
I think I didn't close it.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of things at the time and doing this and that and the other, and I didn't close it like I was supposed to. So it was open, and on the bouncy dirt road on Baker Road. You know Baker Road at all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I lost it.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Tessa. Hi, Herb. How you doing?
Good.
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 I was realizing I should have mentioned, and I don't know why it's in my mind. Andrew Cloutier did mail in a package, and it went to the ZBA mailbox. But then I was told from Linda that it should have gone to Grace, the town clerk, first. So
Probably, yeah, that's.
that it has to
yeah.
go.
So give it to her next
Yeah.
time.
So that's where it is at this point.
Excellent. Oh, how come can you see me?
Nope.
No.
Just it just says iPad.
Mr.
Wait a
iPad.
minute. Oh, here it is. Okay, now, wait a minute. There I am. Okay. All right. Let me get back here so you can, not too far away. All right, that's great. Okay, perfect. Three of us. So a little even further back. My head's getting chopped off. Okay, great. So hopefully we'll get more people. Someone named Kate is connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Kate?
We'll have to ask.
Yeah. Oh, Kate is muted. Kate is muted. Is anybody there besides Tessa and Herb and Chuck? Can anybody hear us out there in virtual land?
Audible? Is Katie audible?
You are audible, but we can't see you. Are you Kate?
Yes, I am Kate. Hello. I'm here on behalf of 34 Lake Drive.
Can we see
Right
you?
next
Is
to
it possible? Is it possible for us to see you?
Possible, yes, if I figured out Zoom on my phone, but on my computer, no.
Do you mind giving me your last name so that I can put it for the minutes?
Not at all, Tessa. I was here at the last meeting a couple weeks ago. It's C as in Charlie, E as in Echo, R-O-W, Siro, Katie Siro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You said you were at the last meeting?
Yep, I was here a couple of weeks ago. Yep, I'm here
Okay.
for the follow-up. You're also, I mean, if it's helpful at all, Tessa, you're gonna have.
Are you under Kate? Are you under Andrew?
No.
We just don't see you in the minutes. What?
Yeah, I think I must have missed putting all the guests down. I heard from Linda that it isn't illegal. If I miss somebody, it's okay.
I didn't speak up for whatever that's worth.
Okay, Kate, did you speak or not?
Katie, what is your last name?
I did not speak at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was
Okay.
with Karen Keegan and Roy LeClaire.
Oh, okay,
Also
thank you. Now,
32.
okay. All right, Kate, thank you.
You're most welcome. And Karen and Keegan and Roy LeClaire, they'll be in soon. So when you see our Karen and Roy pop up, it'll be them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for holding these meetings virtually, guys. This is great.
Yeah, well, we have no choice, I think, right now. Okay, Oh, we thought it was still pretty early, I guess. Okay, that's good. So there's someone else, Tony Teagard. Tony, can you hear us? No? Okay, Tony Teagard. I'm not sure who that is, but we'll find out, I guess.
Tony is unmuted. Tony's muted and Katie is muted.
Tony, do
Okay.
you mind unmuting yourself and just saying
There you are.
a letter?
I just-
or-
It's my first time.
Okay, Tony. Yeah. This is the first time you were at any of these meetings?
At this Zoom meeting, yes, yes. I've
Okay.
been on Zoom, but not like this. Glenn Humphreys is my husband, and myself and Glenn live next door to where Stephen and Megan are building the cottage at Lake Wyola.
Oh, yes, yes. I think we read a letter into the record by you. Is that right, maybe?
Yes, that's
Did you
right.
write a letter?
Yes, we did.
Okay. All right. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see.
We're all like 5 minutes early, so we'll I'm sure others will be joining us soon.
And Andy said he would share the photos. I sent them to him.
Okay.
I want you to be part of it too, right? Are you going to be part of it?
You did, Tessa, you didn't send us the photos all. In other words, Andy's just gonna do that for us, right?
He's gonna share it. Yeah, I mean, I can send them out. If
Excellent.
you want
Yeah,
me to.
I mean, Herb took photos and I took photos and everybody emailed it to each other, so we have
Right.
them. That's
So
good.
everyone
Okay.
saw them. I just
Yeah.
collected them in a document and shared them with Andy. He said he could share
Excellent.
them during the meeting.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's quite an office you have there, Herb. Is that somewhere in your house? Is it in the basement or somewhere else?
Yeah, it's in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I am. I'm in the office in the basement.
Yeah, remind me when I put mine.
This is like a third of what we used to have. We've thrown so much stuff out. It's amazing.
I bet.
I mean, you know, who needs a chemistry textbook from sophomore year, right?
I see a lot of books there, that's for sure. This is my, I was at a 3-hour Zoom meeting this morning.
Oof.
And last night I was on another 3-hour Zoom meeting.
You're a busy man.
Well, last night I was taking I take a class at UMass in Italian, and Tuesday nights is the class, so I study Italian there. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It really is. We had one of your colleagues in there, Giorgio. He was a neurologist at Bay State. He retired about 4 years ago. George. We call him Giorgio.
Say hi to the camera.
Giorgio Buckwheat.
Hi.
That's Glenn. Sorry to interrupt. But
Hi,
I'm Glenn-
Tony. You're
Hi,
Tony.
Earl.
I'm Chuck Damari. How are you? I'm the chair.
Chuck Damari. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Very good. Glenn's going to be on also. I mean, he's my husband, and he and I are together.
Okay. All right. You'll be in the same. I see him over there. Okay.
Yes.
He's hanging out, relaxing.
Yeah.
I see a Karen and a Roy. You appear to be muted. Megan.
Megan.
Megan is muted.
Make up the buckets. Yep.
Yeah, she's one of the applicants, I believe.
Yes.
Karen is unmuted.
Okay. Hi, Karen and Roy.
Hi there.
Good.
So I might have got. I just want to make sure from last minutes. Is LeClaire LACLAIRE?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. I spelled it right. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Tessa. Well, now it's too dark. There we go. We just got here today to Arizona. We couldn't get our internet set up, and I realized I can get on my iPhone. So
Wow.
here I am. They needed 24 hours.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Megan. How are you? Do you hear us? You're
Yes.
muted.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're good.
Okay. You're
Hi.
unmuted. Hi. Hello.
It's just about 7 o'clock there.
Yeah, we have 6:58, so we can't officially begin until 7, and we can't begin until we have quorum. Right now, there's only 2 of us. We need at least one more. We expect them both to attend. So sometimes we wait 5 minutes, 3 minutes after the time, but mostly we start within a minute or 2, but we'll see. I see 2 people here. Someone named La Blue. Is that what you were talking about, Tessa, a few minutes ago?
No.
Someone named La J-L-E-V-E-A.
He's our engineer.
Hi, good
Jeff,
evening. LeBeau. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
I'll get my video.
Okay, and as an observer.
Okay. Hi, good evening.
Hi, oh, there you are. Okay. The observer, you want to unmute yourself? Oh, there's Karen and Roy. I see a Katie. Hi, Andy. Welcome, Andy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Good. Well, at least we know we're going to have quorum tonight. Andy's for those of you who don't know Andy, he's one of our members, and Herb Gilmore up in the, I don't know how you see him, but I see him in a corner somewhere. He's a part of our board as well.
And I must apologize for our webcam tint. It is a $12 pandemic webcam, so we're working with what we've got.
Okay. All right. I just have my
I'm
old
amazed
iPad.
you get a webcam for $12 during the pandemic. Usually they're like, 100.
There apparently was a reason. It's really the bottom of the barrel.
Is anybody here present that's not going to be here by Zoom but by phone? Is any phone participants here?
Yes.
Who's that?
Glenn, we're Zoom. We're Zoom.
Oh, I'm sorry. For Zoom.
Okay, you're okay.
Would observers state their name?
Yeah, people
My
need
name
to
is
state
Glenn.
their name for our law, our land use law clerk. He's taking minutes. So
Corey
state your
Carvalho.
names.
My name is
Corey,
Corey Carvalho.
Oh,
Corey, I
thank
can't
you.
see you. It's Corey, I can't see you. Are you?
I'm by video. I'm by audio only. My video is not great.
Okay, let me, Jeff Lacy just joined the meeting. So we have 4 members here, and I believe it's, does someone want to give me, Andy, we'll make you the technical person now. Can you want to give us the time that you have?
The time is 7:01 p.m.
Okay, all right. I think we are ready to call the meeting to order, so I do so. And I just want to make sure before we proceed, since there's a lot of different people here, I just want to make sure that our meeting host, our land use clerk, Tessa, knows who everyone's here. We have one person, Corey Carvalho, who is a guest. He is participating this evening by telephone only. Corey and I go a long way, as I know Andy knows him too, from the University of Massachusetts. And he was just appointed as a zoning board member of the town of Goshen. And he's about to have his first meeting, and he's here to observe a real live zoning board meeting. So he's here for his education to observe. Okay, so Corey Carvalho, attorney Corey Carvalho, you can write that in as a guest, Tessa. Anybody else have not previously identified themselves for Tessa, so she can make sure she has everyone in the minutes?
I believe I have everyone.
You got everyone, okay.
Yep.
You have Glenn for us?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Now, Tessa, I'm looking at the minutes, and at some point I'm trying to, do you make a statement,
Yes.
Tessa?
Yep.
You want to
So I
make that
have it-
statement now? Or do you, because I called the meeting. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right. Following the governor's restrictions on public meetings, this meeting is being held virtually using zoom.com for remote participation only. The public may access it following the instructions on this meeting's agenda posted on the town calendar. If, despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, the public can request a recording of this meeting by contacting the town clerk.
Okay, so I call the meeting to order. Tessa read the required statement. So I will entertain a motion for the approval of the September 30th, 2020 ZBA minutes.
I need you to hold this. I'm getting it on here.
Okay.
Do I have a motion from one of our members? Any member is fine with me.
Yes. Motion. I so motion.
Jeff Lacy moved to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I
Second.
second.
Okay, Andy seconds. All in favor, say aye. All
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. The minutes are passed. Okay, we are here for the next second item on the agenda is the public hearing, continuation for a special permit and/or a variance regarding the application of Stephen and Megan. Again, I apologize. I'm going to call you Stephen and Megan M. But can you pronounce your name again?
Mikolajchuk.
Okay, great, thank you. And this is for a reconstruction of a house at 32 Lake Drive. The last time we met, we agreed to continue the meeting to tonight, and one of the reasons, and the primary reason we agreed to continue the meeting until this evening was for some of the members to go to the site and from across the street take various photographs. I know that Herb Gilmore, one of our members, took 3 photographs, and I'm not sure how many I took, perhaps 9 or 10. I don't know. Do you know how many I took, Andy?
So I would have to count, but I've got them all here if we would like to review them together.
Yes, let's do that. But before we do that, because I wanted to identify them from the perspective of one of the abutters that lived across the street who had some concerns about this project. That is David Holmes. David, are you here anywhere? Okay. All right.
David just joined.
Okay.
No audio and no video.
Okay. David is here with no audio and no video. I want
He
you
was
at least
here earlier. He might be having trouble with access.
Okay. Okay. I did want him to obviously participate fully in this portion of the meeting in terms of viewing of these photographs. In the meantime, while giving him a chance to join us,
you can hear me.
Are you here, David?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to get my technology together.
Okay, but you at least hear us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you see us?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, as you know, David, I took a number of photos from mostly from your house, from across the street of the area. And I know that Herb Gilmore, another member, took 3 photos. And we got an email recently with yet another photo, but we'll talk about that later. But Andy Berg has been assigned the task of putting all these photos together. So can you view these photos? And David, I want to say this to you. I do want you to identify, I'll lead you, but I do want you to identify these photos too, okay? So Andy, if you can start that.
I would be glad to. And just for the record, Tessa was instrumental. Actually, she put these all together in a Word document for us to view together. And I also note that I did another drive-by of the site. I wasn't able to get out of the car, but I went to 33 Drive at street grade to view what was going on, and also drove over to Shore Road again to look at that structure. So with that, I'm going to share this. Oh, actually, so it looks like I think since I'm not the host, I need permission to share my screen if that would be possible.
So Tessa, you're the
Yep.
host, so you have to give permission.
Ah, wonderful. Very good. So I'm just going to share my screen here if you'll bear with me here. All right. So this is in Word. Can you all see a Word document up on the screen that has, right, you should see 33 Lake Drive, abutters concern regarding loss of view.
I see that very well. And I also have one that's similar to that. Is that right, Andy?
I believe there is down the line.
Okay.
Herb's are first, and that's Chuck's photo facing
okay.
due north.
So that's mine. And I think my photo, I know I had a compass with me that's exactly due north. And I think, and Herb, please correct me if I'm wrong here. It appears, and I don't know, and we can look at the Herb's again, but it appears that I'm looking from a higher view. I'm not so sure. Let's go back to Herb's again. Okay. Okay, Herb's seems to be more level. I'm not sure. David, you can see these two, David? David Holmes, do you hear us?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I do.
Can you see these two photos that we're looking at right now? One that I took,
Yep.
and one that Herb took. Can you see them?
Yes.
Okay. Can you? I know when I took it from the level of where you live, and this one appears to be lower. Can you ascertain any differences between these two photos?
Not too much. They look
Okay.
pretty representative of the view from my yard.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
Chuck, where were you standing when you took this photo? Where on his property?
I was on his property, and I walked.
This looks like you were standing near the fence.
Exactly where I was standing. So I walked over a bit at the same level where you go into his home.
Because that's how far you'd have to go to be able to see like any of the beach like you have in the picture.
So let's if we can all look at that, because we can now talk about it together as a quorum. I'm seeing, and let's see if we can agree about what I see. It appears if the structure is built as requested, as proposed, it appears that you lose maybe slightly less than 50% of that view. Would that be fair, David, to say? Of that aspect, there are other views we're going to look at in a moment, but that particular view from your home, looking at the structure, looking past the structure to the beach, that's the town beach in Shutesbury. I'm ballparking it the way I'm looking at it. It's just a little less than 50% of the beach view you are losing, and a little bit less than 50% of the water view that you are losing. Is that a fair statement? Or
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you describe what you described then, please. What it is.
The view that this picture is taking,
yeah,
is standing way over by the fence under those trees. Where
okay.
I don't go very often. That's not exactly the.
Okay.
The other picture showed a much more representative of.
Okay, go to the other picture then. That one right there?
Oh, no, I don't know where that
No, that's a new picture.
Oh,
go back to the Herb's picture.
Okay, we'll go back to Herb's picture here.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the view from my yard right there.
Okay, that's the view from your yard. Okay, so that's a little bit more than 50% of the water view. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like the board to also consider the cumulative effects of these types of increases in height. Now look to your left to the next house and imagine that house going up as well, following on the heels of this one, and eliminating the rest of his view.
Okay, but let's go through all the photos first, and then we can have a discussion. But I want to just go to these photos. But that's a good point you made, Jeff. Now, this photo here David, this photo here, Herb Gilmore, photo 2, looking slightly to the right of the first photo toward the lake. Where, or Herb or David, where was this photo taken from?
I don't know.
Okay. Is this across the street directly?
I guess that's
looking at the
looking
beach?
straight across.
Okay. Now, I also have one of looking straight across to the beach. So see if you can find mine that's straight across to the beach. Keep going. I don't think it's any of those. Yeah, that's straight across to the beach too. Is that correct?
Sorta, yeah.
Okay. So
I
that's
think from some area.
okay. So
I don't know. It'd be easier for me to tell you if I
go
had
ahead.
taken the
Go ahead.
pictures.
Go ahead. Do that, please.
Do what? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Yeah,
Describe
okay.
what this photo is, please, David.
I'm not sure because I didn't take the picture. That's
Okay, all right. But is it fair to say
it's the lot next to Karen's house that's across the street from my house.
Okay.
I don't know
So-
exactly from where, but
And is
yeah,
that-
those are those trees.
Is that the area where you have an easement, that you all together have an easement to use that area as a beach?
Yes, that's deeded rights for the entire area.
Okay, so this view, it's fair to say, is not encumbered in any way, this part of the view, is that correct?
No,
Okay,
that's correct.
All right. So Andy, continue with some of the other photos just to get generally out here. Okay, what is this view, David?
That is Karen's house. That's next to
Okay.
the house we're talking about.
Okay, now, and to the right of Karen's house is a partial view of the lake, correct?
Yeah.
And this proposed construction does not affect that, is that correct?
No, it's to the house we're talking about is to the left of that house.
Right, no, I understand. We're gonna get to that in a moment, but I just want to point out that there are views that you will still have even if this proceeds. I just want.
Oh yeah, no, I've never said I'm going to
No, I'm not saying that you said it, but I just
view of
want
the lake. Yeah.
What I have to do now is we have to have a conversation with my other board members, so that maybe didn't take pictures, that weren't involved in the picture taking. Let's look at this photo. This was, go ahead, keep going. Let's look at this for a moment. This was a photo sent, and I'll read into the record later, a part of this record. Have you all seen this photo? Jeff, have you seen this?
Yes.
Okay, and Andy, have you seen this before? Obviously you did. Okay.
Yes.
All right, let me just, while we're here, I think it's important that I read into the record a letter received by an Evan Jones at 64 Lake Drive. Dear Shutesbury Zoning Board, thank you for your service to the town in these crazy times. I was surprised to hear of the resistance to granting a special permit to the M family to tear down and build a slightly taller house on Lake Drive. This type of neighborhood improvement has been going on for generations around the lake. I, along with most I know around the lake, welcome the investment in and improvement of these properties. Then it says the 26 height maximum, and I'm going to comment on that later. The 26 height maximum, which is very different from the 35 height allowed in the rest of Shutesbury, is considered by many to be the allowed height, and that shouldn't even be considered to be denied. Your board, and I assume the townspeople, agreed on this reduced height as good measure to allow this type of improvement to be made. Now that I'm at the end of that paragraph, I just want to point out that the actual regulations for the Lake District, it's not 28 feet like he says, but it's 26 feet like he says, but it's actually 28 feet. Now I'm going to continue. He says in the next paragraph, I am sure there are some abutters that are against this request, but the 26-foot zoning bylaw is public knowledge. And again, it's not 26 feet, it's 28 feet. And anyone living across the street, anybody living across the street from lakefront homes should know this is a possibility. One
That's correct.
One way or another, until the law changes, until that
That's
law
definitely
changes,
correct.
the height will be a possibility. Buy 3 or 4 house lots and acquire the needed square footage and setbacks to not need ZBA approval. I also feel a tastefully designed, traditionally pitched roof as the one requested is a lot more attractive than a flat roof boxed built to a lower height. I know of many other houses on the lake that are not being used very much, are an eyesore to look at and are limping along with antiquated septic systems and inadequate well water. I hope residents will be able to continue to upgrade these camps and improve the health of both the lake and the residents using the houses. I suggested to the M family that they buy this house and should have no problem tearing it down and rebuilding a usable 2-story home on that lot, as more than 10 of my neighbors have done over the last decade. This family has also grown up on this lake for several generations and have seen the improvements made on all 3 homes. I can think of no negative effects on the general public by allowing investments like this around the lake. It will improve the tax base, the water quality, and the aesthetics from both the road and the lake. It will also create a new home that is up to current building codes and will be less of a hazard to the neighborhood and to the public.
I might talk. If I start to talk, I'm not talking to you, don't talk to me.
Yeah, please don't talk until I'm done, all right? Attached, please find a photo of that section of the lake that has 5 other homes that over the past 10 years, last 10 years or so, have been improved on and raised or rebuilt up to the 26-foot height limit. Again, it's not 26, it's 28. There are many other examples of this around the lake. The yellow arrows point to the home in question. Okay, so for those of us who can see this, it appears that the subject home owned by Steve and Megan M is that that Andy is pointing to. And Steve and Megan, is that your home? Steve and Megan, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, that is.
Okay, all right. Now, Evan Jones points out 5 other homes as we're looking at it to the right. Let me ask you both, Megan and Steve, are they fair representations of the homes that presently exist on the lake?
Yes.
Okay, and it looks like the one closest to you, the taller one closest to you, is that a 2-story home?
Yep, that's 28 Lake Drive.
Okay, that's 28 Lake Drive. How about the next one that's circled in the yellow? Where is that?
That's 24 Lake Drive.
And is that?
And that was improved with a 2-family
okay
attached home.
And part of that is clearly 2 stories. All right. And then the one next to that is what?
Oh, sorry. Never mind. That's 20 Lake Drive. I'm sorry. Which one? Do you have the?
No, I'm gonna go the second circled yellow one. Wait.
Yeah, that one is that one's a different story. That was done a long time ago, and it was a long time in construction, and I think multiple owners. So I don't think that one is necessarily indicative of the process folks have taken in the last 15 years.
Okay, how about the one immediately to the left of it as we're looking at it? That one that Andy is pointing to. How about that one? Tell us about that.
That one's indicative. Yeah, that's 20 Lake Drive.
Okay, that's 20 Lake Drive. And then there's another one that's 2 away from that we haven't gotten to. Andy, if you can go there. Now, what is that? It looks like only a 1-story. Is that a 1-story?
No, he put on a 2nd story about 9 years ago.
Is it?
It's a full 2nd story.
Is that show the 2nd story? Or just does that? It does.
Yes, it's. I think it's right. This is the 1st story, and this right here, I believe, is the 2nd story.
Okay.
All of those houses have full 2nd stories.
Okay, so you have the proposed house where the arrow is with the proposed project, and then you're saying on that street in the immediate vicinity there are 5 other homes with 2nd stories. Okay, all right. So
can I point out one thing?
Go ahead, David.
Yes.
You? Go ahead.
I'd just like to point out in this photo that other than the one closest to the house we're talking about, The other four, the four that are to the right,
Yeah.
they do not have any abutters across the street.
Okay, that's a very good
That's-
point. It's a very good
Agreed.
point. Okay, that's a good point.
I have a question.
Who's that?
Me, Jeff.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Did someone say that there's a two-family house down there?
No, I misspoke. I apologize. I meant 2-story.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Andy, let's go to some of the other photos that we haven't seen yet, that we haven't talked about yet.
Thing. So I'm just going to go up to the very top here, and we've already gone through this one.
Yeah.
This one was, I think, one where we didn't know it came from, but it sort of, I think, views, towards the private beach area.
Exactly. Okay. Now, as any of us are talking about that, if either the applicants or any abutters disagree with what these photos depict, please so state. Okay, photo 3 from her. This is
yeah. Let me just explain that I took all of these photos basically from the same position.
Okay.
It was in the middle of Mr. Holmes' front yard, close to the chair where he sits.
Okay.
Not necessarily from the chair, but standing up. So these were taken directly in the middle of his yard.
Okay.
And they were taken, as I state here, to the left, which was photo 1, slightly to the right of that, which was photo 2, and then straight across Lake Drive through the trees. So these are views that are not from his house. I did not go into his house. I was on the lawn in the middle of the front lawn.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go to some other photos that we have not seen yet. Okay, this again is a photo from across the street, a photo. Yeah, that's my photo from across the street, and it shows the mock-up. But I'm probably at the fence, as David Holmes pointed out, on the very as you come out the front door of his house to the far left of his property. Okay, again, this shows a better beach view, but as David already pointed out, it's not the exact view from his front door. The house on the right is in fact the David Holmes house. That is your house, David, right?
Yep.
Okay, and David, can you tell us approximately? I see there's stairs going up. I know there is. I walked up those stairs. How much higher is the elevation of your home compared to the proposed structure? I mean, is it a few feet? Is it 30 feet? Is it approximately?
No, my yard is probably 5 feet above road grade.
Okay. And
maybe 6 feet.
5 or 6 feet above road grade, and this the proposed house is below. Okay.
No, I believe that the proposed house will be at road grade.
Okay, let me ask the applicants while I have you here. Are you at road grade?
We have. Yeah, this is Jeff LeBeau, civil engineer, representing Steve and Megan.
Okay.
So actually, I'm looking at my plan right now. So the road grade is approximately, this is assumed datum elevation, but based on our benchmark out there, the road grade's 98, and right in front of their house is 96.5. So there's a slight grade change from the road going down towards their house.
Okay, all right. So it's probably fair to say, if you take David's statement that it's 5 or 6 feet, so it might be 7 or 8 feet difference in if you look at them together. Okay, let's go to some other photos.
Can I?
Go ahead. Who's that? Who wants to speak? Megan.
No,
go
I just
ahead.
wanted to point out that the mock-up reflects any change in grade as well as the house. So it's all comprehensive with the mock-up. That will be the net impact.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's go to some other photos that we haven't talked about. This is your home right straight on from street level, correct?
Yes.
And that shows the mock-up exactly. Okay, and it doesn't show the mock-up on the other side, but that's essentially what the height will be if this proposal is allowed. And if I'm looking at the tip of your roof right now as it presently is there, it's my understanding your proposal is to increase that tip by 5 feet or so. Is that correct?
5 feet, correct.
Okay.
At most
All right.
5, yeah. It's like 4 feet 9 inches. So we just rounded up to 5.
Okay, all right.
Question?
Right. Go ahead, Jeff.
Are there some sticks there that represent the dormers?
Yes. The top one, the lower pitch represents a dormer, and then the other pitch is going to be the same pitch as the current roof.
Okay. All right. I don't think anybody can see my cursor on here. Can they?
Yeah.
Draw a cursor, Jeff.
Yeah, give me a cursor. Don't give me a cursor. Give me a
I don't know. Let me see if I can let you. I don't have a way of. I can't. Is this? I can do it on your behalf, Jeff. But I.
Okay. Run it up to the peak. All right. So there's the peak, and then if you come down off the peak a little bit, that's where the dormer starts, and the dormer runs out almost horizontally and then down.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Gotcha.
Excellent. And that's going to be the same on the other side. Okay. All right.
And
So we all understand.
Are those dormers that run the length of that roof pretty much?
On one side, yes. On the other side, no. We submitted a page with the elevations in our application. If it makes it any, I don't know if that helps to get rid of any ambiguity.
I was trying to get back and reference those drawings, but it was what I had wasn't cooperative tonight, so wasn't able to
so I guess visually on Karen's side, so on the 30, and this is all on the website, Katie. It's at the bottom of the ZBA page on the Shutesbury website for open cases. Nevertheless, on the side for that's 34 Lake Drive, there's two. The space is kind of split in 3. There's a smaller dormer, no dormer, and then a small dormer. And then on the side of 30 Lake Drive, there's it spans the 31 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty much a full dormer on that side.
Okay. Moving on, Andy, to the next photo. It says CD photo E, view from across the street. David, can you describe what this view is? And
if I can move these pictures out of the way.
okay. Can you describe this? Do you see this from any part of your property?
That's in between, I guess, what would be number 38 and 40.
And where is that in relationship to your
Those
home?
are the 2 houses. Looking at the lake from my house, those are the 2 houses which are to the right of the beach access.
34 and 36.
Okay. Okay. So that view is not affected.
It's one. They're both very old. The one on the left is a 1-story cottage, and the one on the right is a 2-story that's been there. That was the first 2-story on the road, I believe. It's been there about 30 years or more.
Okay.
Before I even got here.
And your view is, and the proposed project doesn't interfere with, from your perspective, that view will not be obstructed in any way. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Let's go to some more photos. Okay. I think we already talked about this. My photo G on the right. Again, that photo is not. There'll be no obstruction of that view. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And then on the left of that is photo F. That's again the beach area where you have rights. You all have rights, and that's not obstructed by the proposed project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. Go to some more. All right, then that's again looking at the kind of the space. It's my CD photo H. It shows the subject house, and then to the right of it, the approximate distance between the next structure and and somewhat of a partial water view from there as well. It doesn't look like that water view will be obstructed if this is approved. Is that right? Is that fair or not fair to say?
That is not from my house.
Okay, that is probably, okay, that's from, looks like it might be from ground level then. Okay, let's go to another.
That shows the distance between the house we're talking about and Karen's house,
Okay.
number 34.
Okay. Are there any more photos, Andy?
That is all the photos I have here.
Okay, so now since I've done a lot of talking here, any members, I'm going to ask Jeff or Herb or Andy, and then everybody else will have a chance to also comment. But I'm going to ask the three members first to comment on if they want to point something out about any of these photos, you know, obviously, especially from the perspective of the abutters across the street. Does anybody want to talk about this while we have
Well, sure. So, I mean, I guess I think I'd like to talk about them in relation to other things that we've approved, you know,
okay.
and if is that okay, or would you like to
Yeah. We could. Well, I mean, we can do this two ways. We can start having this discussion, but why don't we do this instead before we do that? Any abutters? Are there any abutters, including you, David Holmes, and any other abutters that want to speak first about any of these photos? I mean, we've had a conversation. I was doing a lot of talking, and Andy was, and Jeff was, and Herb was, and David Holmes was, and the applicants pointed things out. But does anybody else, except for the board, want to talk about these photos right now? Again, we can always go back to them, but does anybody want to point things out here for the benefit of the board?
Yes, there is someone here.
Who is that? What's your name, please?
It's Glenn Humphreys. I'm at 30 Lake Drive.
Go ahead.
And Steve and Megan are at 32, so I'm right next door.
Okay. Looking at it, are you looking at it from this view on my photo H? Are you on the left or the right?
I'm on the left.
Okay, we can't see your house then. Go ahead, please speak.
Yes, and my feeling on this is, I just think that having a place here on Lake Wyola is like the American dream, and Steve and Megan want their family to have that American dream. And from what I've seen of the photos, especially the amount of loss that David is going to lose from his house, this seems like a really terrible thing to put Stephen and Megan through, because they are trying to do the American dream. They have 2 young children. They have a big family in the area, and they like boating. They love swimming. They like boating. They like being here at the lake. And I have to tell you, my wife and I both enjoy them, all 4 of them, and their families. And so to stop this project for that tiny little view of the lake that David can see from either his front yard or from his house is borderline absurd.
The tree.
And I don't think he should hold up that American dream for that little piece of the view.
Okay,
I'm
Tony.
getting emotional here.
And any other, besides Tony, are there any other abutters that are present here tonight that want to comment on the view issue? Who is that?
This is Katie Serow from 34. Glenn, I think, on Tony's iPad with the name there. Are you a year-round resident?
Yeah, it's Glenn Humphreys and Tony. I switched over to the iPad.
No, we're not year-round residents.
Oh, no, we're not. I see.
And David Holmes, are you a year-round resident?
Yes, you know I am. And also, I haven't talked to Glenn about this yet, but that's a real misrepresentation of my point of view. I'm not trying to deny anybody the American dream, and I'm not even trying to preserve that little sliver of my view. I'm more trying to object to the denigration of the neighborhood by all of these two-story additions on the house. I think it's a mistake to allow all of these lakeside houses to expand to 2 stories. It's happened without restraint further down the street, and probably without objection, because there is no abutters across the street whose views were being compromised. But if we go ahead with this project and it's used as a precedent, then I know that there's other houses that are already considering going 2 stories that will affect the views of people directly across the street. And so this is kind of just a line in the sand. I'm just trying to preserve the nature of the neighborhood and basically the value of the properties who are not lucky enough to live on the shore, which is all of the people in support of these projects have the upper hand on the rest of us because they all live on the shore, including Evan Jones and including Glenn and including everyone else that I've heard from who's been in support of this project. I haven't heard anyone in support of the project or in support of allowing 2-story houses from any abutters or any neighbors who are not lucky enough to live lakeside. They live across the street, and these are the houses that are being diminished by this basically a unfettered movement of allowing people to build bigger and bigger houses lakeside. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. Any other abutters that are here this evening that want to comment on the view issue or anything else? Is someone speaking? Who's that? Does someone want to speak?
I was just going to talk about the tree. There's a great big tree between the 2 houses.
Okay,
Megan,
and who are you? Who are you?
I'm Tony, Glenn's wife. I'm the
Okay.
blue house next door
Okay.
to Megan and Steve.
All right, okay, make your comments, Tony.
Just that there's a giant tree there that's going to be coming down, and I think that might clear up some view for people that are on the road behind.
You're saying there's a giant tree that's going to come down
The pine tree. It's
as a result of this project, is that right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the pine tree that Andy Berg is pointing to right now?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
that's the
thank
pine.
you.
So that is going to come, that will come down as a result of this project, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
That's what we
so
hear.
you're saying that that's going to even open up the view more, or at least where that pine tree is that right?
Yes. I lost the Zoom. I'm going to try to get it back.
Okay, can you from your memory or anybody else, including you, David, or the applicants, I'm looking at this. Can you tell me about how wide this pine tree is?
That pine tree is incredibly tall.
Yeah, and how wide is it, David?
It's not wide at all. There's a good picture of it right there.
Okay.
You see, that tree obstructs a little bit of the sky.
Okay.
Not so much anything else.
Okay.
If I could speak up again,
Tony,
that tree is, like we say, it's over 100 feet tall. And in the last several years, 2 branches have come down, about 6 inches in diameter. One went through the skylight of Steve and Megan's house.
Before they bought it.
And the other branch that came down went through, I have a little tool shed on the side of my house. And it went through the roof of the tool shed. Luckily for me, it was on an overhang. But the real problem is not whether it goes through somebody's roof. The real problem is the kids, the neighborhood kids and families. Anybody walking between our two houses is at risk. And so the tree really needs to come down. And that will help your view. It's a minuscule view, but so isn't the view of the lake that he presently has.
Okay.
Minuscule.
All right, so you're suggesting that the removal of this tree is better for the neighborhood. Is that what you're saying, Tony? Just so I understand.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You're all saying that. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. All right. So let's, any other abutters? Any other abutters want to talk about any of these photos? Because I want to go off the photos and then back to the regular part of the meeting. Does any other abutters want to make any comments about these? And the applicants, either of the two applicants, do you want to make any comments about any of these photos? You'll have ample opportunity to speak.
This is
again
Jeff.
later. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So just the technical, I just checked the survey. It's a 36-inch diameter pine, just to answer the dimension question.
Okay, so it's 3 feet in diameter. Okay, that's
Correct.
All right. Good to know. Okay, any other abutters or witnesses besides board members that want to comment on any of these photos?
I have only one other question. I don't know if this is.
Go ahead, David.
I don't know if this is allowable or not, or even pertainable.
Go ahead and ask it.
I've heard that number 26 wants to go to 2 stories also.
Okay.
Has that been presented?
Does anybody here own number 26? That person's not here. Are they here, David, as far as you know?
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying that.
All right. We'll take that for what it's worth.
I've heard similar things.
Yeah, again, these are statements outside the hearings, and that's what in law we call that hearsay. So we could take that for what it's worth. Okay. Any other comments about any of these photos? Okay. Who's that?
This is Katie Sorrell.
Go ahead, Katie.
I wanted to read what I wrote in the chat. Apparently that's not being recorded, although Jeff LeBeau said it was going to be at the beginning.
I'm sorry, what did you want to say, Katie?
Just wanted to say that the mock-up that I see 432 Lake Drive from the pictures taken at 33 Lake Drive, it seems to take up more than 50% of the lake view.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Okay. All right. From that perspective. Okay.
Our butter has been there for over 35 years. That's taken a lot of the view away.
Katie, where do you live, Katie?
34.
And that's on the lake? Is that on the lake?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Is that on the lake?
Yeah, it's the abutter. It's the residence just to the side of 32.
Okay, so it's right beside the house. Okay. All right. Any Herb or Jeff or Andy, we're going to have obviously a whole conversation in a few minutes, but is there anything, while we have the photos up, we can always go back to them, but while we have them up, do any of you want to make any comments about them now?
Yeah.
And then
Jeff, you want to talk about this?
I also wanted to just make a comment about the porch that was coming up the front. Well, that's going to cut off a bit of our.
Well, no, let's wait for that, because right now we're just talking about the view, the lost view from across the street. We'll get to the porch later, but go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I had forwarded a photo to Tessa, and it was via email, and I was wondering if she could share it.
Let me try and get back hosting.
I will. Very good. Let me see if I can get you as a. You're still good. You're still the host. Let me stop sharing, and I will. Let me see if I have that email as well. I can share it too.
Okay. Excellent. All right.
While we're waiting, if I could just make a comment.
Yes, please, Herb. Go ahead.
Probably as a non-voting alternate member tonight.
Yes.
That the percentage of view that would be lost by this construction, when one looks at the total view of the lake, is probably less than 10%.
Okay, we're going to have, all of us are going to talk about this for sure, but let's try to find the one that Jeff submitted. I think that's important. And you're looking for that, Tessa?
Yeah, Jeff, do you remember the date you sent it?
Oh, I just sent it a minute ago.
Oh. Did you send it to us, Jeff, as well?
Let's see who I sent it to. I sent it to Tessa Dowling. Oh, wait a minute. No, did I? Hold on.
I would recommend sending it to the zba@shutesbury.org. I have that open.
Okay, here it comes. I might have sent it to the wrong place. Here you go.
zba@shutesbury.org. Is that what you sent it to?
I sent it, yeah. Is it there yet?
No.
Can I have sharing privileges?
Yes, I think I can make.
Yeah, that's probably easier.
Yes, let me see.
Just give me sharing privileges and I'll show it to you myself.
Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm changing. That might have done it. I tried.
That should be good, yeah.
All right, it says I am host now. Cool.
Share screen is a arrow, green arrow at the bottom of the screen.
We're in. You guys have it?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, here's a picture that I took.
Okay.
The subject property is in the middle with a red roof.
Exactly.
And there are two houses on either side that are lower.
Right.
This house is already, and you're following my cursor?
Yep.
All right, here's the big tree.
Right.
It appears to be the last tree left on this lot.
Mm-hmm.
These appear to be one-story houses on either side. This is a story and a half, this house. And what I note is how close together these are. They don't come anywhere near meeting the side setback lines. These houses are close.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's significant.
Okay.
Because when you go up on things like this, you build a wall. Instead of having individual buildings that stand alone, you appear to build a wall. And what you're doing is you're walling off this street, and you're walling off all these people that live across here. Because once this house goes up, this house is going to go up, and then this house is going to go up, and they're going to be asking us, why can't we go just as high? So everything is going to be up here.
Okay.
Eventually.
Can I comment?
Who's that?
Steve Mikolajczyk. I don't know if it's my turn. I'm sorry I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn. I just wanted to...
Jeff, before Steve starts to speak, have you made your points that you need to make on that point, Jeff?
I'm making a point about this particular place on the lake.
I understand.
I'm not making a general point that houses can't go up if they're lakefront, but I'm making a point about this particular micro neighborhood.
Okay, I think you made that point well. Is there anything else you want to add that you haven't already said?
I would add that if you look over here,
yeah,
and you see this area here that would be taken out of the gentleman's view.
Yeah.
Imagine this house then going up and probably taking the rest of it. So
okay,
these things are cumulative, and when we start doing one, then we have a harder and harder time saying no to subsequent proposals.
Okay, all right.
And there is additional lake if you got up in the gentleman whose property we were standing on, if you got up into his actual house, into his porch, which was significantly higher than where we were, there'd probably be quite a bit more lake visible right in this area.
Yep.
But once again, if it all comes up to here, to this level, that all goes away as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. I think now the applicant wanted to say something about this.
I agree that the house is non-conforming with the 15-foot setback, but when the neighborhood was subdivided and developed, the original setbacks were 4 feet from the property lines, and we have about 8.5 feet from the property line, so we're over double the original plan for the neighborhood on that. I mean, is what it is. And I was just, as far as the I just don't know if this is the right place, but if we're, for this application, I think we need to determine if this is going to be substantially more detrimental than the existing non.
Yeah, okay, let's not get there yet, because right now all I want to do is comment, show photos, point things out for the photos, then we're going to get into the other part of it. Believe me, we'll get into it. So
Okay,
not right now.
I'll reserve my comment for later. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, all right. Unless anybody else wants to comment on any of these photos, I want to go back to the general meeting.
This is Karen. This is Karen, and I'd like to comment on the photos, please.
Go ahead.
From what I saw from David's view in the photos that were taken, and the one that he said was the correct view from where he lives, he will lose the whole beach part, okay, the whole beach view. We want everything for Stephen and Megan, and we want everything for David. And I don't want to discount David. He has been there for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like things taken away from people. I look at it, if that were me there, I would want somebody to defend me.
Karen, where do you live?
Right next door at 34.
On the beach side, is that right?
Side. Yeah.
Can you just clarify the beach view? As you're referring to the state beach view, correct?
The state.
Because he has an unencumbered view of the beach
Of the state
across
beach.
the street.
Of the state beach.
Yeah,
Right.
so there's two different beaches I think are important to.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I think we all recognize it. Directly in front of David's house, there's another view that he has. This will not in any way, shape, or form interfere with that view. And he has another view to the right. This will not interfere in any way, shape, or form with that view either. What we're looking at is the view to the left of the subject house that will be interfered with to some extent. Okay, that's what I think. I think that's what the evidence shows. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that, but I think that David agreed with that too. Okay, are we ready to stop the photos and get back to the meeting?
Can I make one more comment, please?
Who is that?
That is
Tony. Go ahead.
This is Glenn Humphreys, 30 Lake Drive.
Oh,
To the
Glenn,
left
you are
of the
Glenn.
picture.
Okay, go ahead.
And the thing I wanted to comment on is in David's case, and actually all of the cases on that street, they all have access to an entire view of the lake by walking 100 feet down to the lake. And every house on that street has access to that beach. And in David's case, if he has a chair outside on the porch, he can see quite well. But if he walks the 100 feet down to the lake, he can see everything.
Okay.
And
All right.
I think that's an important thing.
Okay, let's go back. I just don't want to have a meeting that goes 10 hours because that's what we're going to have here, because this is just all of this was just preliminary to look at photos. So let's go back if we can, unless anybody has a strong objection, because I want to get this meeting moved
One more
along.
question. I'm sorry. I realize you do not want to hear more questions. This is Katie Serow from 34.
Go ahead. Is this a comment on the photos? That's all. Just photo comments, not any arguments. We're going to have
I'm
plenty
just
of time
curious
for arguments.
when the dormer is built up on 34 side, I mean, where are the windows gonna look into our property? To Megan and Stephen, sorry.
Does that have anything to do with the
They haven't
view of
talked
the
to us
lake?
about this, so I don't know.
We're talking about the view of the lake. Let's confine the evidence there. Later on, we'll get into other evidence. So let's go back to the general meeting, or we're gonna be here literally for 10 more weeks. Let's go ahead. Let's go back, put us back to the regular meeting, okay?
Jeff, if you can stop sharing, it's at the bottom.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
All right, here, okay, we're back in the meeting. I'd like to say that we've gone on for almost an hour just looking at photos, and that's all we've done. We've all looked at photos. We've pointed things out in the photos. You know, I think we all have a good sense of this project and what it is, at least insofar as it's going up. I think we have a good sense of many different views from many different perspectives, and certainly that includes the immediate two abutters on each side, right and left. That certainly includes the view of David Holmes. So now I want to keep that as background. Now I want to continue with the meeting, and except for the view issue, we're going to talk about it again. Obviously, it's central to this discussion. But let's raise other issues now. Someone wanted to talk about, the last speaker wanted to talk about a view into her window or something. Who was that? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yep, that's Katie from 34.
Okay, are you? I don't see you. Are you? Where are you?
That's correct. I've got a broken webcam. So,
okay,
yeah,
go ahead. So
you're on spot.
34. Go ahead. Stop speaking.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. You can speak.
Oh, Megan and Stephen, hi guys. We haven't talked about the construction either. I'm waving back, I promise. We haven't talked person to person about how the construction is going to be looking into the property on 34. When you construct the dormers, where are the windows going to be looking in from that upper level onto our property, or any level onto our property?
If you look at the plan, the submitted application, there's elevations there, and you can see where the windows are in the dormers, and there's currently windows already on that side of the house.
So the height won't be changing at all? They're just going to stay where they are, which would be stellar.
Well, they'll be higher.
They'll be higher.
They will be higher. Okay, so, okay. And will there be more windows? Like, I don't know. Because you're adding a basement, it seems like, and then you're going to have, you said 1,200 square feet.
It's going to be net plus one
basement
window, I
and
think.
floor, and then a second floor, which is a bit higher. So is it the first floor that's going to be looking into our first floor?
She's not doing her video.
It already does look in.
Yeah, we already have
3 windows.
And we have the 3 other windows too.
And then the porch windows
so we
as
have
well.
6 windows already. It'll be.
So it seems like there's not going to be a lot of change with regards to the view that you have, quote unquote, where you can see from our windows and your windows and vice versa. It's kind of going to be the same in new construction.
And the second story will have, because of the dormer, the windows will be standard windows instead of the existing, what are they called? The
skylights.
Skylights, yeah.
Yeah.
So those will kind of go like above our roof.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard someone wanted to talk about the porch. Who wanted to talk about the porch? Any abutter here wanted to talk about the porch? Someone earlier mentioned something about a porch and wanted to know about the porch.
So there's going to be an enclosed porch, guys. I've heard 2 different things. I've heard an open porch and an enclosed porch. Is it going to be enclosed according to
the plan shows a porch with a roof, and we've spec'd. They're like plexiglass windows. They're not real windows.
Just 3-season windows.
Like a 3-season.
So the stairs that come down out of the newly constructed enclosed porch, those will go beyond where the stairs currently go?
By about a foot.
Yeah, there won't be stairs going out from there out. They will be proposed porch will conclude generally in line where the current stairs are.
So when you do the new construction, it'll go a foot beyond where the current stairs normally, or where the current stairs are right now.
That's
It's about that,
pretty
yeah.
accurate approximation, yeah.
Okay, we've talked about windows, we've talked about porches, we've talked about views. Does anybody else, besides the applicants, beside board members, besides the discussion about views and porches and windows, is there any other aspect of evidence that we haven't looked at that abutters feel we should look at? Okay, hearing none. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the applicants, because now you've seen a lot of photos, you've heard from a lot of abutters, you've heard some preliminary thoughts from board members, you've heard from David from across the street. So abutters, you have the floor now to say whatever you want to say in support of your application. And at some point, we're gonna move into a discussion between board members, but have another opportunity to say anything you want to say about this right now, okay? The applicants, go ahead.
Okay. So just to reiterate real quick, I did have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Holmes after the board did their visit to take some photos. And like he mentioned before, he's not necessarily objecting to just me, he's objecting to the whole premise of adding on to height increases on any houses on the lake. So it's not just saying, you know, I don't want you to do this, it's just more of a general thing. So that's kind of where I feel like that's kind of where we left with that. That's how I understood it anyway.
Okay.
So I don't, as far as, I mean, it just is what it is, I guess. That's,
well, yeah, he's fundamentally opposed to what we're proposing, you know, and also taking into account the speculation that other folks may do this and they may not. And I think it's unfair to be held accountable for actions that aren't occurring currently. We're proposing what we're proposing.
Okay.
And, you know, further to that point, we've done what research we're able to do based on public records, and it really appears as though our project is indistinguishable from recent projects around the lake. You know, the one that you can point to with most data that, you know, because you can still get the minutes for your meetings, is 67 Lake Drive, where
Shore Drive.
I'm sorry, Shore Drive. All the street names are so interchangeable.
Can you tell me when we ruled on that one, 67?
Yeah, so on that one,
What year was that?
It was approved with a reduction of the overall height by a foot from 27 7 3/4 down to 26 7 3/4, but they're also given an additional 3 feet expansion of their current footprint.
Can I ask you when we did that? What year was that, please?
2016.
Yeah.
What was the name on that one?
It's Golden Light Films. The owners were Milfy is the gentleman. I forget the wife's name.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 4 years ago we did that. Okay.
That's the most recent one.
Okay. All right.
And in this case, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
In this case, the direct abutter behind who was most impacted, based on what I've been able to glean from the minutes, you know, raised the issue about the impact and, you know, the overall impact. And they, you know, I think we're able to come to an agreement. And I think we brought this up in the last meeting. You know, we obviously want to minimize impact to the overall community and keep in the custom of the neighborhood. And with that, we didn't request going out to the 28 feet. We followed along and read through this, and we also read through the other ones that we weren't able to get the minutes for, but nevertheless, you were able to kind of glean what happened. And we thought it'd be a good compromise to present the house at 26.5 feet. And that's where they landed with 67 Shore. And we were able to get a design that, you know, suited our needs at 26.5 feet, which is a five foot increase, which I think is we're not creating a McMansion or anything that will be an eyesore, and it will, with the grade changes and all those things that we're required to do for the Conservation Commission, will be really addressing the neighborhood and having it, fit in with the neighborhood and not stick out. So, I mean, I just think that case, it really makes our case indistinguishable. The only thing I can point to that is different is that the abutting property is a public beach. So it may appear to others that the lot is actually much larger than it is, but that lot is not substantially larger than ours. They just happen to be next to a private beach, which is unencumbered. So visually, it's a little bit different.
And in the finding for the special permit, it said the board finds that the applicant was unable, due to position of septic well, residential structure, lot lines, and lakefront, from expanding the dwelling in any significant way except by adding a second story. So that's where we felt that we were indistinguishable from them, from that special permit that was granted.
And to our knowledge, 32 Lake Drive has not been expanded in any way since 1930s when it was built. I do believe that a lot of the surrounding abutters, the houses have had some expansion from the original use, which makes the, again, I think a support of our project.
All right. Does any abutter now want to comment on what Megan and Steve just said? Is there any abutters that want to say anything else about what they just said? Okay. All right.
I will.
I think. Go on. I'm sorry. Is that David?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
See, my concern is about precedent, and I'm a little confused about Megan's argument there that she wants to not hold out her project as being precedent for the neighborhood, but she also wants to use another precedent that you set on the other side of the lake in support of her project. So I believe that that's kind of working both sides of the street.
Okay.
Well, I think I would argue though that the bylaws were amended at one point to permit the 28 feet via special permit. So there has been some unilateral decision to allow this development to occur on the lake.
Okay.
I understand.
Jeff, just wait a second, Jeff, before we get that.
I need to clarify her point.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, the 28 feet is how high you're able to build at a maximum by right in the Lake Viola district. And you can do it by right under certain circumstances, but for the most part, you need to have a full-size lot, which is 90,000 square feet and 250 feet of frontage, and you have to meet all the side setbacks. And then you can just go to the building inspector and go to 28 feet. That's not the situation we have here. The 28.
I understand that.
The 28 is a ceiling. It's not something everyone's entitled to. It's a ceiling. You can't go beyond.
We certainly understand that. Go ahead.
No, sir.
Well, can I just make a comment to the comment?
Go ahead. Who's this? Who's saying this?
Herb.
-3.
Oh, go Herb. Go ahead, Herb.
As per 61-3, the issue.
Yeah.
And use.
I'm sorry. What did you say? Go ahead.
They're
Herb.
regarding structure and use.
Right.
And I think they have fulfilled both.
Yeah. Okay. We're
structure and the use.
Okay. We're going to get into arguments in a second between us.
Well, no, but Jeff was starting an argument on
I know.
About that. And so I'm just countering what he's saying because
try to hold our eye. Let's all board members try to. I have a lot of things to say too about the law here, so I'm going to talk about that. And certainly Jeff is, and certainly Herb, and certainly Andy is. We're going to all have conversations. But I really want, right now, and hopefully we're toward the end of it, I just want to be in our fact-finding mode rather than our argument mode. And I also, of course, want to give leeway to the applicants to hear their piece, including arguments. Okay, so any other things about facts, porches, windows, views, or anything else the applicant said by way of precedent. David commented on precedent. Anything else before the four of us start having conversations? Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that Mr. Holmes did benefit from being granted a special permit years and years and years ago to expand. And I'm not sure which way he expanded, but like we pointed out, the only way that we can expand is by going in height because of all the just the challenges with the septic and the well and everything else that is there.
Having off-street parking.
Oh yeah, having off-street parking and all that.
Okay. All right, are we done with the evidence? And because I want to start moving into a discussion between board members, and we
I'm
may
sorry,
call on
you seem
to
awfully annoyed,
clarify.
but
We
I'm
may
in a butter
still.
with a couple more questions.
Who are you? Who are you?
Katie Sarow, 34 Lake Drive.
Go ahead, Katie Sarow, 34 Lake Drive.
I'm
Go
wondering
ahead.
if there are changes, if there are going to be changes in the future, will the abutters be notified? And I'm going to bring back to the porch again. So with the 1 foot extension, what's the height going to be in addition to what's currently there?
The proposed height is 26.5 feet.
The porch doesn't go up that high. If you can get on the town of Shutesbury website, you should be able to download the application, which has the elevations, the proposed elevations as part of the package, and that should be clear as to, or be a little more clear. It doesn't have exact measurements, but it shows the spirit of what we're doing, what we're proposing.
I'm sorry, Steve, which document was this?
It's on the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, current cases.
Yeah, it's at the very bottom of the Shutesbury Zoning Board of Appeals website.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Any other comments on evidence?
Changes?
Hello?
Hello? What was the response to the changes? If there are going to be changes in the future, will the abutters be notified?
If there's, the abutters are notified anytime there's an application for a special permit or for a variance or for some other action that either the planning board or the zoning board can take. But that's not the subject of this meeting. What they might do in the future is not relevant to this meeting right now. Okay?
Okay, yep.
All right, so
Thank you.
Are we ready? I'm talking to you abutters. I'm talking to you applicants. I'm talking to you, David Holmes. Are we ready? Are you all ready? Have you said your piece? Because now I want to start moving this meeting into a discussion primarily between the four board members. Does anybody else want to say anything before we do that? Any other evidence you want to point out? I'm not hearing
We're still
anything.
doing this in the context of an open hearing, right?
Yes. Okay. Obviously, seeing that so far in terms of photos and discussions about the porches and windows and views, there's nothing else we have all, I believe we have it all, nothing else to be added right now. So I want to now open the floor to our members. I know that Herb and Andy started making points. I know, Jeff, you have a lot of points. I certainly do too, but let's go with, start with Herb, because I cut you off, Herb, and tell me your whole perspective about this and what you think. And you were pointing out provisions of the bylaws. I certainly will be doing that too, but go ahead.
Well, I think, being the newest member of this board, I can't speak for the scope of the board, but it's my understanding that we're a zoning board. We're not a planning board. We're a zoning board. And the zoning board has regulations as a zoning board, not as a planning board, not as a conservation board. And, excuse me, someone is speaking.
Yeah, because look at, can you mute yourself? Because we're getting background, we're getting a lot of background noise and someone's trying to speak. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Go ahead, Herb.
And so I go back to the three main issues which have to do with land, use, and structure. The land, I think Megan and David have pointed out quite correctly, it is what it is. It's what they've got to work with. And so we're really left with, as per 613, discussion of structure and use. And to me, they answered my question initially at the last meeting, that they were using this as an extension of their family, not as a second family, not as a business. So I think it fulfills the requirements in that zone at the lake in that regard. As far as structure is concerned, I think it also fulfills, as laid out. It may be imperfect, and it may not be the thing to look for in the future, but it is what we have to work with. They fit the structure. There's no mention in 613 about the land, other than in listing the amount of space that has to be between properties, which they fulfill. So although I'm very close to saying, I think they have the right to do what they're doing. And I'm even questioning whether they require a special permit.
Okay, Herb, you'll have more opportunity to speak. Andy, can you make some comments here?
Sure. So I guess my comments fall much along the line with Herb's. You know, I think, you know, I'm taking a look at the language of the bylaw, and it's really, is this alteration, this particular alteration, not any planned future alterations, not where the neighborhood may go, is this alteration substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what currently exists? And I think unequivocally it's not. I mean, I'm sort of thinking about, you know, a few things that I have in mind as it relates to that. One, I very distinctly recall 67 Shore Drive, which was, I was an alternate member at the time, but that was, there was a nice gentleman who had built a house across the street for his mother, was just finishing that up, and then the people across the street wanted to sort of raise right up to the 28 feet that was, you know, what would have been, you know, is generally seen as the statutory limit. And I recall at the time, the detriment to his view was far more substantial than anything we've looked at in the pictures we see today. I mean, it was really substantial. I was bummed out that sort of, I think it went the way it did, and I don't necessarily feel like he got as fair a shake as he should have, but the loss to his view was quite substantial compared to sort of the small sliver of view that is lost here. And sort of balancing that small sliver of view versus having a usable house for a family, right? You know, this is not talking about a 2,500 square foot house. I think the house is 1,200 square feet or something along those lines. This is a modest structure, and so I think that also has to be taken into account. It really does feel to me to be in line, and to a degree even more modest than existing structures that are nearby, and that have been allowed to continue. I just want to make sure we're not setting arbitrary, we're not setting our foot down on this particular project when everyone else to date has been allowed to do the same basic and general type of project. You know, 67 Shore Drive, it was, the setbacks are not quite as close, but they're real close. I mean, that was very, those houses are very, very close to each other too. And it really feels like, I drove past there 2 days ago. I went to go look at these both again from my car, and they're very substantially situated as far as I can see, with the exception that in the other case, the butter lost a great deal more of their view. And I really, it feels very important to me that we're not necessarily making this planning decision about what the lake side should look like based on this case. I think that if there's going to be a limit on what the height of lakeshore structures, which I don't totally disagree that there should be. I mean, I think that there is definitely the danger that some of these structures do get too big. I don't think this structure is, but I also don't think that that's the purview of the zoning board in this particular permitting process. My feeling is that that should be a zoning law change to sort of make that happen, and that it feels quite arbitrary to jump in at this very moment with this very project, having seen all the others that have come through here that are very similarly situated, to say, you know, this is where we draw the line in the sand. I think there's a law change that we have to make if we want to do that, and that I don't want to sort of I don't want to step over the bounds that we've already laid out as what is fair behavior. So I think that's where I'm sort of currently sitting, that the loss of view is minimal, that for this particular project, the situation is that we have to find that it's not, that this project and this project alone is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than currently exists. And I think they've presented a thoughtfully planned out house that is in line with what is in the neighborhood, and I would be in favor of it moving forward.
Okay, so we have 2 in favor. Jeff, let me hear your arguments, please, and your position. I know we've already heard them, but if you want to articulate them at this point in time, that's caps, you know, put it all together for you, then I'll comment. Jeff, you got to unmute. Okay, go ahead.
It's sounding like we're deliberating at this point. So maybe I'll tone down what I'm going to say here. I for one, as a planning board member and a zoning board member, do not feel bound by what I feel is poor prior precedent. And I believe a board can, at any point, consciously decide to go in a more advisable direction. And that's what I would encourage our board to contemplate here. As to Herb's citing of the zoning bylaw, I would point, if you've got a copy, Herb, in front of you, to 6.1-3, 6.1-3D, 1B, which essentially says that like you mentioned, that these projects can go by right if they meet A, B, and C. But this one does not meet B, which says the highest point on the roof line of these changes will be no higher than the highest point on the roof line of the existing structure. So that's what kicks this into a special permit. There's no ambiguity about that. So we're in a special permit, and we're in a special permit because of the height expansion, not because of distance to lot lines, and not because it's going to violate or prevent compliance with any other applicable law or regulation. So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. It's because of the height. So I guess I would articulate my other 5 concerns that I mentioned at the last meeting. Without the minutes right in front of me, I can't restate them, but they're restated in the previous minutes, and I'll restate them by reference here. But what I'll also ask, and I'm sort of asking the applicants, I guess, or just first of all, what's the lot size of this piece of property?
Dimensional or
how many
area?
How many square feet do you have?
A little over 4,000. It's 40 wide, and it's 112 on one side and 116 deep on the other.
Can anybody do that quick before I can get my calculator out here?
40 by 116, is that what you said?
So if it's 40 by 114 on average, it's what, about 45, 60, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, 45, 60. All right. Okay, so here are some things to consider. Right now, it looks like that structure is about 1.5 stories. Half a story upstairs, and you've got a full-size first floor. And the proposal appears to be to expand it to 3 usable stories, with those dormers making the second floor pretty much a full story. So that's 100%. That's a doubling of what you've got. That's substantial, 100%. I've worked in other regulatory jobs where we did similar things, similar types of lakefront expansions. This was for the Watershed Protection Act, where our limit was 50%. So this is 100% increase.
And so you include a basement as livable space?
That's the way it was described last time, the space that you can use and.
Well, used for mechanical.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna have a bedroom or anything in the basement.
Okay, most people who have houses like that open right out onto the lake do use those basements for some things, at least.
I mean, I'm sure we'll use it, but it's more for storage and going in and out and.
Right.
I mean, I don't plan on having my 4-year-old sleep down there.
No. Wondering whether you've considered an expansion from 1.5 stories to 2.5 stories, essentially leaving the second story not much different, rebuilding the first story, and then having the benefit of the basement that you don't now have, plus the deck that you don't now have. And that would be a 67% increase, a little more reasonable.
So okay, sorry.
So I was just throwing that out as something that I would ask you to consider. And then a couple of other alternatives of, say, keeping the same height and pitch of roof, but with some added dormers to make that upstairs a little more usable and seem a little more roomy, or make the overall structure higher, same pitch but higher, but without the dormers. So you're getting more ceiling height in there, and you're having windows at both gabled ends. I mean, there's sort of other ways to improve the second floor other than what you've proposed. I will say that the lot size of 4560, I mean, all these lots down there trouble me because the state's environmental code requires 10,000 square feet per bedroom for septic systems. And you have enough area for nitrogen management for comparable to 1/4 of the bedroom. You're going to have 2, but your your lot is only big enough for 1/4 of a bedroom.
I don't think that's accurate. Jeff, are you able to speak to the septic design?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So this is Jeff LeBeau, civil engineer, for the record. I understand, Jeff, what you're saying as far as the loading and the nitrogen, but we did perform a design that was reviewed by the local Board of Health as under a local upgrade approval, which is allowed by law. And we were able to meet all requirements, local and state. And that has already been approved by the Board of Health.
Right.
So I understand that concern you have, but we actually do meet it, and it's been well vetted by the local Board of Health's agent as well. And we did go back and forth on the design to come up with something that was most practical and that met all the legal requirements.
So do you have an alternative system of treatment?
It is the chambers, the infiltrator chambers that we're proposing. based on one of the Mass DP letters of approval.
Now,
And we didn't, and we asked for the bare minimum. We hardly had to make any changes or reductions in setbacks. But just to kind of be clear, isn't this out of the purview of this board's discussion? It's already been approved.
Yeah,
Well,
I actually think it is.
I don't.
Well,
I reject the siloization of the various regulatory boards in Shutesbury.
yeah, but don't forget, the Board of Health approved this and the
Right.
Conservation Commission approved this, so.
Right, but we're all dealing with the same thing. It's development around the lake. It's nitrogen loading. It's deforestation. It's creating walls of structures right at the lake shore. All of us, the Board of Health, the Zoning Board, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission. I'm not going to be put in a silo. Sorry.
But Jeff, isn't your points, I think your points are appropriate points, but I think they're much more appropriate for a planning board meeting. I mean, this is not the planning board, and the planning board obviously has the authority to rewrite zoning bylaws in a way that would meet all of your concerns. And I know you're one of the main authors. So I think this is a zoning board, and I think we have to look at these regulations and we have to apply these regulations as they exist. And the question that is whether or not this is in harmony or isn't in harmony. It's provided that the board finds that such reconstruction, extension, structural change, major exterior alteration or expansion is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use. I think we have to focus on that language and whether or not the changes that's contemplated here is or is not more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. I think that's what we have to focus on, not the overall what the zoning should be. And, you know, and I think the planning board obviously has the absolute right to focus on that, but we have one applicant in front of us. We apply these particular zoning laws, and I think it's not appropriate to change a zoning board meeting into a planning board meeting. It's just not, it's fundamentally unfair, in my opinion. In fact, I'd go further to say, and I think my other two members have said this, I think it's arbitrary and capricious. That's what I think, because I'm looking at legal definitions of what is substantial. And what is substantial, according to like Black's Law Dictionary and all these other legal definitions that I looked at, it's plentiful, it's considerable, it's a lot, it's large. And when I look at this proposal, Jeff, from a zoning board perspective, not a planning board perspective, I see that the view that he is not going to have is very, very minor, very insignificant, and certainly not even close to substantial. He has a direct view right across the street. He can sit in his chair and see the entire lake. He has easement rights there. He has views straight out. He has views to the right, and he has, even though he has some obstruction to the left, I think exactly Andy made the point that the prior cases, we had much more of view departures. I think the planning board could, if they so desire, write a zoning bylaw, and maybe I would not object to that at all if you did that, but it's not what it is now, saying the maximum height could be 26 or 25 or 24 or 21. That is the purview of the planning board. The planning board could certainly do that if they desire, bring it to town meeting, have a town debate about that, and that could be the new zoning law, but that's not what the law is now. By special permit, he has the right to go up to 28 feet if we grant the special permit, and the rules of granting special permits are here in 6.1-3C. Now, I would add that if you go on, and we're not required to consider this special permit.
Are you going to abscond with my time? Is it your time now?
No, but I'm just trying to, I just think you're coming.
I thought maybe I was done and
Jeff,
you're
coming from a planning board perspective, and this is not the planning board. And I think it's inappropriate. I think it's arbitrary and capricious.
Well,
And
I think you're off because
Well, I
of course
understand.
it's
I
not,
see
of
that you
course
think
it's not
I'm
the
wrong,
planning
but-
board. It doesn't have to be the planning board. It could be the zoning board.
Well-
No, the planning board does not have to write these kinds of bylaws. There's nothing that says that the zoning board can't.
Well,
We deal with these things all the time. If it's a
But,
trouble for us, then
but we
then
have what we
should
have,
write
Jeff. We have what we have. We have an application, and we
Well-
have the criteria.
Well,
In fact,
don't say planning board. The planning board's got nothing to do here.
yeah, the planning board can write a bylaw and say you can't have more than 22 feet. Planning
Well,
board
so
can
can
do
the
that.
zoning board. The planning
Well,
board's
we
not
can
the only one
propose
that
it if
writes
we
the
want
bylaws.
to the town meeting, but we're not proposing it. We're here for this application that's live right now, that has to do with their home. And we have to balance what is substantial and not substantial
Okay.
based on the
Well,
harmony in the community.
okay, when I look at this language, not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood is everything around there. It's the house in question, it's the road, it's the houses across, it's the water that's in that vicinity, right near there.
I would agree.
And there's a septic system here that's proposed to put 4 times the amount of leachate in the ground in close proximity to the lake, 4 times more than the state code says it should.
I mean, I will note that probably given the I am nervous, as is just like everybody else, of going into the purview of the Board of Health. I recognize that I sort of think that if the Board of Health says that it's okay, we have to abide by that. And the place to sort of challenge that would probably be at the Board of Health meeting where it was approved. I think that if we second guess what the Board of Health says, we open up a whole big can of worms in terms of somebody challenging it. I will also note that this is probably on a very elderly septic system right now to begin with, that is on its last leg. And so that as a net, I'm sure the Board of Health would not have signed off on this if it was not a safe situation.
They do it because they have to do it. Not because it meets any kind of new home construction requirements. They do it because they have to do it.
Jeff, I want to say this on 6.1-3C. It says we don't have to look at the criteria in 9.2-2, which has to do with site plan, which has to do with other things that are not even relevant to here. I think what is relevant to here, though, is the special permit criteria, which they in fact meet, and that's on page 66, 9.3-2. I think you actually misstated it in the first bylaw. That's what it should have said. And this criteria is 9.3-2 to grant special permits is actually more stringent than the one that we have 6.1-3C with the language that I read. And they actually meet all of the other ones too, the 9 criteria on page 66. So I mean, I don't know, what else we need to do here. Is it more substantial, detrimental, or isn't it? That's what we have to focus on. I say it isn't. I say it's minor and insignificant. I think viewing other houses that are going up, they don't exist. That's not the evidence yet. That might be true. That may happen. And that's what planning boards or zoning boards might want to write bylaws about, to give it to town meeting, to pass them at town meeting. We can all be thinking about that if we want, this is a zoning board or as a planning board, but that's not what the evidence is before us tonight. The evidence before us is a whole bunch of different views. There's a whole bunch of different houses on the same street that are second floors. Is what we've allowed in the past. Is they're coming forth with an application. They're trying to comply as best as they can. They've had approval of the health board and the conservation commission. And I just think it's unfair to apply criteria as if it's the ideal zoning act that maybe should be in existence, but that isn't. And I know that only one vote can turn this, and I know you can stop this project. So obviously you have a lot to say because it has to be unanimous, Jeff. But I think that we have to look at this from a zoning perspective, taking into consideration all the other perspectives for sure. But the language is provided that the board finds that such reconstruction, extension, structural change major exterior alteration or expansion is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. I think that's what we have to focus on. Just that. Is it or is it more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood? And I agree with
That's what I'm
my other
focusing
two
on.
colleagues. Huh?
Chuck, that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not going to
But
section.
your arguments that you're making have to do with what's going to happen in the future and other houses that are going to be built and the encroachment on the lake, and you're making arguments about
water
health
quality.
boards.
Water quality affects the neighborhood.
They're trying to improve this. They're trying to improve it with a better upgrade in the system. You know, they've got trees that are dangerous there as far as I can see, and they're concerns about that too. The removal of that tree is probably a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good
Okay,
thing
so
in terms
I'm
of,
not going to say anything more until we get into deliberations, because we're deliberating and this is supposed to be a public hearing. Mostly I wanted to point out to the applicants that they have proposed a fairly substantial increase. There are subsets of that would be possibly, in my view, less detrimental to the neighborhood, different ways of going up. Perhaps making better use out of that basement and having a more modest upstairs. There are many ways that this property can be improved and made useful and more enjoyable to you and worth the investment without necessarily doing the full boat that you've proposed here. So I would urge you to think about that because once we close the public hearing, I don't think that you can propose anything else. I think we just go on to a decision, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, can we open up the public hearing if they change their mind and want to submit other plans? Can we do that in the same process?
well, I mean, here's where, I mean, obviously, you know, you have the authority to kill this, Jeff, because we have to have a unanimous decision. It has to be 3 votes in favor. If it's 2-1, it dies. So, I mean, obviously, you have a lot of authority and power here, and we're not moving into deliberation yet. So I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to persuade the applicants to stay this proceeding, to continue this proceeding, and giving them an opportunity to come up with another design. But I'm just suggesting that your suggestion that they use the basement is just, I just don't think it's appropriate. It's not appropriate from any perspective. A tax perspective, it's taxed less. I mean, I can't, to say you have to use a basement as living space, the tax people don't even see it that way. And I don't see it that way. And I don't think anybody should see it that way. It's a basement. And most of us have basements. And I don't see too many houses around the lake. I've been to a lot of them that have basements that are more than storage and keeping your canoe in there and doing all of that. And you're trying to force them into that. I don't think it's appropriate. But obviously, if we go into deliberation, and applicants, you need to understand this. If we go into deliberation, the question is going to be, if we start talking about it, and you can kind of get a sense of where we're going here, Jeff can vote it down, and then unless we make an exception, you can't reapply for another 2 years, and we can make an exception perhaps, or we can continue this meeting. And I think that's what Jeff wants, a continuation of this meeting so that you can redesign it.
I have a,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I speak? Sorry. In August of 2019, I met with actually the 4 members that are currently here seeking education and guidance on my 2 properties that we own down there. And at the time we went over, I have a lot across the street, and we went over possible variance to get something on that lot. But more importantly, we went over expanding 32 Lake Drive and education and guidance on that. And out of that, I was advised to talk to the building department about that. And the building department pretty much said, you have to go through the ZBA, and if they grant a special permit, he'll give me a building permit. But in that meeting, I was never advised, and I don't see anything in the bylaws that that point to a percentage increase requirement. Because if I had known that there was something in there, that I feel that it's just not, like right now, we went through this whole process and designed something based on what we feel was in the rule book in the ZBA, and now to come back and say, we'll try again with a 66% increase of space. If that was written in the law to begin with, we would have obviously had to constrain ourselves to that, as well as the many other constraints that we have dealing with this lot. So that's all I kind of wanted to bring up, that we tried to do the right thing with seeking guidance and education, and it's all in the minutes there as well. And if I'd known that at the time, we could have, even if it was mentioned there that said, you know, like the points you brought up, which are probably valid points, and said, you know, if we prefer this and this, then we would have been at a different stage right now than we are with what we would have submitted. So I feel we just submitted what we felt was within. Actually, we already went down 1.5 feet, and we're just looking to do the existing footprint. We're not even trying to expand. So we feel like we've constrained ourselves a lot on this. It just, as far as with the, for, you know, environmental purposes and for just general neighborhood you know, to be in harmony with what's there.
And we've followed the process the whole time. We've sought counsel from each board the entire time and followed, and we happily allowed continuances for Conservation Commission for multiple iterations of plans, things of that nature. So, I mean, this is you know, if there weren't a siloed process, this actually would have been a lot easier for us, but it is what it is. And I also feel like we're at a disadvantage right now because there's a fundamental difference of opinions on the board. So I feel like we've presented our case, and I think we have strong support. And it's unfortunate that, you know, it appears as though Jeff is the deciding factor, which, you know, in a world where there's 3 people that are for this and 1 against, I feel like we're at an unfair situation here.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So just, I'm not sure, I can't remember the meeting that you were present at, but what we should have gotten down to at that meeting was this section that I've been quoting here, which controls what we're doing. It's all 6.1-3, C and D. And, you know, D says that you would have been just going to the building inspector and getting a building permit if all you were going to be doing is building within the existing bounds of the structure and not getting any nearer to lot lines, which you are. Even the deck.
We're not getting any nearer to lot lines.
Right. So, and even the deck does not extend any nearer to lot lines, and it meets the lake setback, I believe. Right. So you'd be able to do that too. But what kicks you into a special permit with all this discretion, this business about substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, what gets you into that is this B that says the highest point of the roof line of these changes will be no higher than the highest point of the roof line of the existing structure.
Right, that's consistent with our understanding.
Right, that's what kicks you into a special permit, and that's what causes us to read this language here and ask about its effect on the neighborhood.
Okay.
That's consistent with what we understand. I think that's what we've been discussing.
Which is why they apply for a special permit, because they understand it's 6.1-3C.
May I ask a point of order from you, Chuck?
Yes.
So for special permits, I believe it's a supermajority of the appointing board. Could you clarify what a supermajority of the appointing board is?
Well, where do you see that?
That's on page, let's see here. It is on page 60.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. Page 60.
And it's the last sentence in 9.1.
Okay, that's not my page 60.
I'm sorry. Let me see here. Let me see if I got this thing. It's in 9.1.
9.1. Okay, hold on.
9.1, the last sentence there. And if I can quote it, it said, the procedure for special permits generally takes more time, requires a public hearing, and requires a vote of a supermajority of the approving board. The special permit granting unless waived by the approving board.
Can you, I have in my hands the May 4th, 2019.
Let me see, maybe I might have my old copy.
It's not, because even the sections have been changed, so it might not. My 9.1 doesn't say that.
Let me grab my new copy here. I must have my old copy. If you'll bear with me for 1 second.
Yeah, thank you. Jeff, while he's doing that, what do you say a supermajority is, Jeff?
For a 3-member board, for a variance or a special permit, or for an appeal, it's 3.
Okay.
3 out of 3. So, you know, Herb is here, but he's an alternate, so he can't vote. So it's you, Andy, and me. And then if Andy has to step away, then Herb steps in and we become the 3.
So you think a supermajority is unanimous, is what you're saying? Yeah.
I would have thought that if it was needed unanimous, it would have said unanimous, and the supermajority is generally a 2/3 vote.
I want to see the language. Okay, show me the language, Andy.
Let me just grab it here. It looks like the one we actually have. I've got to go find my printed copy somewhere. If anyone can go to the first section of special permit, it's site plan review.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Can you read that for me, Jeff? Thank you. I've got my, yeah.
Okay, this is out of the Handbook of Massachusetts Land Use and Planning Law, Mark Bobrowski.
Yep. What does our bylaw say, though?
Huh? It can't say anything different than this.
Okay, go ahead. That's the law. That's at map chapter 40. Is that what that is? 48?
Yeah, this is controlling statute. Chapter 48, section 9, special permits and 15 variances require the unanimous vote of a 3-member board, or the vote of at least 4 members of a 5-member board to grant a special permit or a variance. So it's 3 out of 3. It's not the best. Not the best system.
There's no question, Andy, the state statute supersedes a local regulation.
Yes.
So it's what we thought it was, 3. If it's supermajority, I would have interpreted it exactly how you interpreted it. But I don't know, that has to be changed too, man, if it's in our bylaw. But
it is in the, yeah, it is in the bylaw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so look at, here we are. And the question is,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Because there's been a distinction made between discussion and deliberation here. What phase are we in? Because Jeff is talking about deliberation as opposed to discussion.
I haven't declared that we're in deliberation yet. When we actually, the problem with going into deliberation is that implies a vote. So discussion, deliberation is a fine line. I'd say that so far we're all in discussion. If we move into deliberation, we could vote, and then that could be problematic if the vote's 2-1.
So I can continue the discussion.
You can, certainly you can. Go ahead.
Let's go to 6.1-3D. Let's just read that.
6.1-3D.
Yes, we're talking about C. All right, we're talking about C. Now let's talk about D.
B?
D.
D. Go ahead.
Reconstruction, extension, structural changes, or major exterior alteration, collectively hereafter alterations to a non-conforming single or 2-family residential structure shall not be considered an increase in the non-conforming nature of the structure and shall be permitted by right under the following circumstances. 1, the proposed alterations comply with the setback requirements, which they do.
No.
They do.
No.
They don't.
They don't. They're too close on the side.
It's my understanding that
Isn't that grandfathered in?
Yeah, it's a non-conforming use can be continued. so long as you don't expand the footprint.
Yeah, I
What
thought they
No,
could
no,
enlarge
no,
it.
no, I don't agree with that.
Because we're increasing the height. All this is driven by height. It's not setbacks. If we were to propose going beyond our existing footprint, then we would be outside of setbacks.
No.
So, you know, in theory, somebody could even build a flat roofed 21.5-foot structure, which would take up the same amount of lake view by right. And the only difference that I see is, so the view would be gone at that point. The same amount of view basically would be gone, but the difference is the livable space for the family inside, you know? And so, because I think your current height is 21.5 feet. Is that right?
Yes.
And so you could build this giant flat roofed thing by right.
What are the present setback requirements on the lake?
It's in section.
Yes.
I think this is grandfathered, but I don't.
Yeah.
Even if it's not grandfathered, what are the present
15
restrictions?
15 feet, I believe, but that, I don't think.
Let's go back to the tape.
The front is 20, the sides are 15, and the lake is 25, but the road frontage is 250, which is a nonsensical frontage for the lake if you've driven by anything there.
This is grandfather. This is all grandfather.
So this, because if you look at the beginning of 6.1, it says that, let me just get back there. If the use of a structure or land was legal under the zoning bylaw when the structure was built or the use was commenced, but is now non-conforming to this bylaw, which that is where we apply, it may be continued. Such use may not be expanded and such a structure may not be enlarged or altered except as provided in this section 6.1. And then if you go to 6.1D, 1B, the special permit we're requesting is because we're increasing the highest point on the roof line from 21 feet to the proposed 26.5 feet.
And that's how I view it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Where is Tessa? Are you still here? Where's Tessa?
Yeah, I just turned off video because stuff was happening in my background.
Okay, all right, Trying to make sure you're here, that's all.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, don't worry.
Okay, all right. So look at, we're at a situation here, we're still in discussion, intense discussion. And the question is, do we want to go into deliberation? You know, obviously, you know, I'm not sure we should until we can either convince Jeff or the applicants to change their design. I think it's,
Has there been precedent that the board requires? Has there been precedent that this is required with the board? I mean, to be honest, I don't know where to begin. Jeff seems to have something in his head.
Well, I mean,
I think we're finding that
the reality is,
to
Megan,
believe that it's,
if you go into deliberation, Megan, it culminates in a vote. So, you know, and if it's a 2-to-1 vote, that means it's denied. It's probably better for all of us at this point in time to stay in discussion to see if we can come to some resolution, and that may mean continuing meetings. But I just want to say, my 25 years on the board, we've never been sued, and I don't want this to be the first case.
Well, I mean, you're setting yourself up for
I'm looking at it from an attorney's viewpoint, and I see arbitrary and capricious all over the place here. And I think a lawyer just out of law school a couple of years can probably prove that. So I have a problem with this from a legal perspective if it's going to be denied. And that's how I see it. We can go to town council maybe and bring town council in here. You know, is another thing we can do. And maybe that's what we should do, because I see liability here. Now I'm going to be blunt about it. I'm going to be frank about it. I think it's arbitrary and capricious. And I think if it's arbitrary and capricious, it could be appealed and there could be litigation. And it also could be an undue taking, a constitutional right. So I have a concern about this from a legal perspective. So what I think we should do maybe is invite town council here to get some advice about this. Go ahead. Go ahead. You want to talk? Tony, are you doing anything over there? I don't know what you're doing. I thought you were waving to me. You're on silent. You need to unsilent yourself if you want to speak. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you want
No,
to
I'm
say something?
Yeah, I looked up supermajority as soon as it was mentioned, and it didn't say that it was the majority. Supermajority means more than half. It means
Yeah, but-
60%, but I didn't know if anybody there, you know, if it was different pertaining to
Jeff
that,
was-
but that's what the Merriam definition is, and I looked up another definition.
That may be true, but Jeff was reading from the statute, and if
I
Jeff was
see.
reading,
That's why Glenn wanted me to say something about it, because
yeah, if Jeff was reading from the statute, and if you read the statute correctly, you know, the statute supersedes whatever we have in the bylaw, so.
but the
just
term
because-
supermajority said that it wasn't, it didn't mean 100%.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, oh, sorry, please go ahead, Chuck.
No, I would have, I think Andy's perspective, my perspective, and your perspective are probably the same, but if Jeff read the statute, I want to give deference to the statute. Go ahead, Jeff.
I don't even know if the statute says supermajority. The statute says on a 3-member board, you need 3 votes to pass something. On a 5-member board, you need 4 votes. On a 7-member board, you need 5 votes.
Could we
Those
just,
are all supermajorities, but I don't even know if the statute says supermajority.
but also, but could we look at that statute a little more closely? Because I want to make sure that, you know, that does seem to be something that we would want to examine, because I know our bylaws, you know, they do say supermajority, which is, you know, at least colloquially, that's, you know, a 2/3 vote. So if you have 2 out of 3 present voting members, that's good enough.
Yeah,
statute controls.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I just think we could we examine that? Maybe we might want to have town council come in to advise us on that, you know, because could we look at that statute a little more closely, or at least maybe, Jeff, could you share with us which statute that is so we could look it up?
Chapter 48, what section, Jeff?
It's 40A, voting
Mass
requirement.
General Laws, Chapter 48.
48(9). 48 Section 9, special permits.
Okay, hold on.
Just pulling it up. Should be a minute here. It's
Chapter 40A, and you're saying Section 9?
Yep.
Okay, here it is. Okay, here it is.
Yep. So I see that. Yep. It says a special permit issued by a special permit granting authority shall require a 2/3 vote of boards with more than 5 members, a vote of at least 4 members of a 5-member board, and a unanimous vote of a 3-member board. And that's true. It's there. You know, it's hard because even though the statute overrules our zoning bylaws, which is what the public would be relying on in terms of their education for what they need to complete their process, states something different.
Sure. I think we should get Donna here for the other reasons, because I just don't see how this is, you know, not substantially more detrimental. I think it is. I just don't see the evidence. I don't think we have the evidence, because I think the evidence you're using, Jeff, is evidence of general application. It's not specific to this application. What might happen, what buildings might go up, that's going to cause more of an infringement on his view. I just don't see it. I think the courts will look at this and see what the neighborhood looks like, what you've done before. Generally speaking, I think that's what the courts will do with this. It's, you know, especially they'll see the split. They'll see that, they'll have the minutes. I think we should get Donna in here for some counsel and see what she says. And you know, or in the alternative, if you want to, Megan and Stephen submit another design, one way or the other. But I don't think we're going to get far into this unless we do one of those things. So let me ask you, applicants, what would you like to do here?
Well, we kind of got blind. I mean, I feel like we just got blindsided, seeing as we went over a year ago for education and guidance, and also the bylaws don't have anything that has an expansion criteria percentage wise. And now we're being told to go redesign and maybe try to be 66%. And then what happens if people, what happens if people complain about that? Is it like, well, today the number's 45%? I mean, there's no number in the bylaws to work with. I just feel like it's a moving target. And that's just where I'm at. Unfortunately, we've been through the whole process, and I've been in contact with the town, multiple departments and committees in the town for over a year and a half on this project. So that this is kind of a surprise to me. And I'm just not sure if this, with the detrimental, how the zoning can look at things that the Board of Health approved, that Conservation Commission also approved. We got put through the ringer with the DEP and the Conservation Commission on this project to make sure that we took care of runoff for the neighborhood and things like that, and also plantings to preserve the bank on the lake. And the trees we took down, if you can you can go look, they're dead in the middle. The maples that we took down, they were good. I mean, at some point they're falling on the houses. And same with those pines we took down. It wasn't that I wanted to spend all this thousands of dollars on tree work. Believe me, if I didn't have to do that, I wouldn't have done that. It was just, they have to, safety reasons, come down. So, I mean, we also got the part, like we've tried through the whole step of the way. I feel like we've kind of, followed, took every bit of guidance from every department along the way. And now it's just, we got to here, and we've spent a lot of time and money to get to this point, and it's just to say go redesign now, to me, is I would have liked to known that back when I spoke for education and guidance, and also just when I kind of talked back with meeting with just on my initial stuff before filling out the application with the chair, to if I would have known that these are kind of some rules that you need to go by, even though they're not in there. So that's where I'm at. Not to be long-winded, but I just feel, just to all of a sudden say try again and come up with this, it's
all right. Why don't we perhaps we should just go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I'm not sure what we said in education and guidance. It's not designed to analyze people's proposals to the point where they know that they're going to be approved.
No.
Most of the time there aren't really proposals. There's just sort of general descriptions of what folks may want to do and what parts of the bylaws apply and what permits would be necessary, and is there a public hearing, and what do we have to go through, and what are the fees, and what kind of things do you look at. But I would be very surprised if we had this project in front of us and gave you a clean bill of health at that time. That's not
No, but what you advise us is to go get a plan. And we got a plan based on our.
Yeah, then they're not. I think your points are very well taken, but obviously I always preface it, and whether it's at the meeting or in phone calls, anything is not binding on us. It's a whole board.
Sure.
I mean, I always preface it. Yeah. It's not binding, but I think your points are still well taken, because
if you could.
And none of us had visited the site at the time and seen your property in relation to the ones around it, which really is the crux of the decision that we have to make. So, anything we said back there was trying to be helpful, but you couldn't really take it to the bank until you're at this stage when we're doing field visits and we're looking at actual plans. And the 67%, that's not any number other than just what that happened to be. The 1.5 stories to 2.5, I just did a quick calculation, 67, that's not a magic number that you get below and you get something. That's just happened to be what that is. And all I'm trying to do, I'd love to vote yes on this and get with my other board members. And so that's why I was just throwing out all those things that you might think about that could lessen the impacts on the neighborhood from the abutters and from my view, and make this a project that we could approve. So that's why I'm urging we stay in the hearing phase where we can have discussions and we can go back and forth with you guys. But once we get in deliberations, I don't know if we can accept new material.
No, we can't. So look,
So-
why don't we, go
I
ahead.
just feel,
Sorry, we only have one I mean, there is one abutter that is objecting, and we have support. We also have support from somebody across on the other side that called in last week and they were pleasantly surprised that we were not trying to just go up to the max, that we worked within stuff there too. And they showed support for our project. So I'm going back to this detrimental, and I don't know how going up 5 feet and putting on another floor is just gonna like make the lake not usable and create catastrophe there. That's where I'm failing to just see with what's in the bylaws, the criteria to meet. So
I mean, it really sounds like it's coming down to Jeff's opinion about what's going to be aesthetically more pleasing, and that's the challenge for us.
Here's my suggestion is this. We can't really, Andy is unavailable until, I think, is it November 14th, Andy?
Something along those lines, yeah.
So I think we should see, I think what we should do is pick a date after November 14th that we can all agree with. And then I think the two of you, the applicants, should think about if you want to do a redesign or not, want to consult with an attorney or not.
I'd like you to consult with your town attorney. I think we're being put in a really unfair situation.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I don't want to be forced to pay $20,000 for an attorney when there's one person that's opposing
let's say we pick a date, a week after November 14th, and let's say you tell me in 10 days, you think about this, talk to me in 10 days, or maybe even talk to your neighbor, David, see if we can work something out. If you can't, I will see if I can get town council to show up at a meeting and give us advice. We very, very, very rarely do that, as a zoning board. But I have an issue about the legality of a no vote anyway. So since I have that in my head, and I'm an attorney, I don't know what town council will say, and I will defer to her for sure, no question about it. But I don't think there's going to be any disagreement here that it has to be 3 voting members. I don't think we're not going to ask her about that. She's going to certainly say 3 voting members, because she's going to look at chapter 48 no matter what. I think the only question is that language, and and we can say why we think all of us can give our viewpoints on that language, and she can give her whatever he wants. I don't think she's going to say allow an arbitrary and capricious decision, but she might come to the conclusion that it isn't, or she might come to the conclusion that it is, and then we follow her counsel. Go ahead, Jeff.
Chuck, I have some misgivings about having town council at our meeting.
Well, it costs money.
Well, it costs money. She has a camp on the lake on the same road. It's a single-story camp. I've been there, and unless she is entirely procedural in her advice to us and stays completely away from substance, I think I would object.
Well, I mean, I think it would be appropriate, whether it's her or some other attorney, to give the evidence that we have of 5 houses allowed right in the same area. What we have done before, look at the language. And again, I add that although that language clearly applies, it's, in my opinion, they also meet the more stringent language that's actually misquoted here. It's not 9.2-2, which is what the bylaws say, because that has to do only with open space design. It's the other language, 9.3, which is even more stringent. And I think they comply with that more stringent language. And given the photograph, this one right here, in this photograph, she can make a determination in her opinion as if this was litigated in a court, whether or not it's arbitrary and capricious. I think she can think, that there's danger or there isn't danger. If she says there's no danger and Jeff can do whatever he wants,
Well,
that's her advice, but you're suggesting that she might be in a conflict of interest now, right?
yeah.
Jeff?
Chuck, I'm not sure what that photo purports to show.
It shows right in the same neighborhood. It shows 5 other second-story houses. That's what it shows.
Yeah,
they're all in
And that's
very
what it's
close
for.
proximity to. I mean, these are 2,
That's
3,
what
4 houses down.
That's what a land court judge will look at, this photo.
Yeah, and it looks like a defoliated apartment block. I mean,
Wow.
what's that supposed to show?
That's going to show that in that neighborhood, there are 5 two-story houses, and it's going to show that the project that they're proposing is an upgrade, not a downgrade. They're making it something nicer there. It's going to show that they're complying with the health board and the conservation commission. It's going to show a whole bunch of other things. They're going to get all these minutes. They're going to look at it, and that's what it's going to show.
And the thing is,
and they can make it. The court has the power to overrule the zoning board. There's no question about that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, and my thing is, if it looks like a defoliated apartment block, that is what the neighborhood currently is then. And so it has to be substantially detrimental to that existing condition, you know? So if that's what it currently looks like, is this worse than that?
Not the particular area we're in right now. No, it hasn't gotten there yet.
It's
one block, one house.
It's one house away.
One house over. Literally 40 feet.
Attorney can express an opinion as to whether or not a court may or may not find that this is arbitrary and capricious. They may say absolutely no. They may say absolutely yes. More likely, they're not going to say either one, absolutely yes, absolutely no. They're going to say 70% yes, or 80% yes, or 10% yes. That's what they're going to say. That's what any lawyer would do. And that's something for us as a board to take into consideration. I don't want to cost the town money in litigation. I certainly don't. And that's what will happen. And in these cases to defend, you know, 10,000 or 100,000 to defend. I just don't think it's more detrimental. I think it improves the neighborhood. I know that David loses a little bit of view. There's no question about that. But I don't think it meets the criteria that we should deny this. And I think a court could so find. The court could agree with that. Maybe not. And Donna might say otherwise. But you're suggesting that Donna's not appropriate because it's a conflict of interest, because she lives in the lake. And maybe you're right about that. So then we might have to hire an independent lawyer to come in.
Mr. Chairman, is that the only way to improve the neighborhood?
No, but the question—
Is that the only way to do it?
No, I think the courts are going to look at this. What is the application? Look at the application. I think there's little doubt. I never say 100%, but I think there's a 99% they'll say that this is an improvement in the neighborhood. And then they'll take into consideration David Holmes' perspective, that it's blocking some of his view, and it certainly is blocking some of his view. They'll apply the legal definition of substantial, and substantial is all over the law. There's plenty of things. It's substantial damages, substantial evidence. Substantial is considerable, a large amount. That's what they'll find. And then the court could make their own determination whether or not this is a large amount or just a significant but not substantial impairment. And then I think they'll also maybe look at your comments, Jeff, as to whether or not we're a zoning board, or we're a planning board, or we're a health board, or we're the conservation commission. And I think they'll say, you're a zoning board, these are your bylaws, even though some of them are not written properly. These are the bylaws. That's chapter 48. They'll apply that. And they'll make a determination. I mean, courts do it all the time. They decide if it is or is not arbitrary and capricious. They have a right to make those findings, and they can do that. There's no question. Or they can even worse than that. If it's a constitutional claim, they can say it's a regulatory taking, given what else has been going on. Everybody else can get second stories, they can't. And it's right in this neighborhood. It's not even on the other side of the lake. But they might look at the whole lake, and there's a lot more of them around the lake. So that's what I think is we are in legal jeopardy here. That's my opinion.
So Chuck, let me read you again you know, we have two members of our group that are not necessarily versed in land use law, but reading again from Bobrowski, he said, this is in a chapter that deals with framing the decision of a special permit. He says, on the other hand, the decision of the granting authority to deny a variance to a special permit is less demanding. While the requirement for findings which support the grant of a variance or special permit are rigorous, less is necessary when relief is refused.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But I just think given the language, given the fact that we even comply with the more stringent requirements, which we don't even have to apply, even though it cites it wrongly, given this photograph here, given all the other photographs that are in evidence about the impairment of the view of David Holmes, and the fact that he can directly access a beach that he has easements to and see the entire lake, and look at it right from, not even going to the easement, just staying on his property and see straight ahead and still see the beach, even if this is built. Granted, it may be that if two other houses are built, he might not even see the beach at all. Understanding that, I don't think a court would look at that. That's a future thing. And I think they might say, and I think rightfully they would say, that's a planning board can revisit this and lower the heights generally on the lake to 24, whatever they want to lower it to 22. But that doesn't apply to this case. That's how I think the court will look at it.
I'm certainly not trained in law, nor do I pretend to be.
Right.
But I am sure that if a court looks at this, they will look very, very carefully at our zoning board regulations. And they will look at each and every word of the wording of that regulation. So it better be totally intact from a legal standpoint, because I think there may be plenty of places for that to be challenged. And I'm not saying that that is going to happen, but I'm just concerned that if it gets to that point, then you're looking at the whole zoning board regulations being gone over in minutia, and each and every word looked at extremely carefully. And if that's what we want, I guess that's what we're going to get.
No, but I also
we're going there, but I'm just saying that is a very likely scenario when you get into the courts. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think any judge would look at what are your regulations, let me read them, let me go over them carefully, let me look at each and every word. And I guess, do we want to have that happen?
Jeff, if you don't want to use Donna, what are we going to do, Jeff? Going to hire another lawyer that's even more expensive for the town and the taxpayers? I mean, what do we have? If Donna's not appropriate, we have to have a special town council come in. I mean, we can't. I think we need legal advice.
What about Corey?
Corey, are you still there? Is he there? Corey, are you still there? Yeah, he's probably.
Can you believe it? I am.
You are there. Oh my God.
You're gonna make a fine zoning board member, Corey.
This is very riveting. I'm regretting taking the oath already.
Yeah, Corey, they're all not like this, Corey. We usually spend about 20 minutes on these special, half hour.
It's actually been quite fascinating. I've enjoyed following.
Yeah, we can't use Corey. He's just a novice. He's a very experienced attorney, but he's just in the beginning of his zoning career here.
If Chuck has told me anything, the answer to your question is it depends, and I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Good luck, gentlemen.
It depends on, and Corey is a member of the trial court. He works for the trial court, and I think he would be the first to say, Judge, you don't know what a judge will do. They might think the way I'm thinking right now, and they could think exactly how I'm thinking right now, or they might think whatever you want to do, you can do. I mean, they go to any extreme, but I think what a town council can do, what an independent legal opinion does, is give probabilities. That's all I would do. I never say 100%. I never say 0%. It's always between 1% and 99%. That's what I always say, and I go through, what I think it is. I think this is way beyond. I think the evidence is very substantial that a judge would find this arbitrary and capricious. Now, I could be wrong. Absolutely, absolutely. I could be wrong, but that's why I want independent counsel to come in. It can't be Donna McNichol if she can recuse herself. Can we ask her, Jeff? Can we ask her? To see if she wants to recuse herself? I mean, or do you think she just should recuse herself because she has does she live right on the lake or in the Lake District?
She lives right on the lake down the street from this place, on the same lake.
But you're all Shutesbury residents. I mean, why is that any different? I don't know Donna, but I don't know where she lives. But I mean, you're all pardon me?
She's the town council.
No, I understand that, but you all live in Shutesbury and you serve the boards for Shutesbury. You all have presumably taken the same oath or something to do the right thing. I don't understand why she would be precluded just because she lives on the lake. I mean, it's a legal matter at this point.
The question is whether or not she would be biased and whether or not maybe she wants to build a she wants a two-story house too. And that's what I think. Jeff,
I mean, I know we're all getting a little punchy after 2.5 hours, but I think the spirit of this is that it seems as though there is a majority in favor of this and a minority in objection. And I wonder if there is an exception that can be made in this case.
The only exception that could be made is if the rest of us, either the applicants or the applicants through council or the other board members, could persuade Jeff to look at this a little differently than requiring you to chop off a whole. I don't know what your height would be here, Jeff. Would it would be 21 feet or would it be something between 21 feet and
well, I just think that sets forth an unfair precedent that a member of the ZBA is requiring us to design the house.
The problem is if it's a vote, Jeff, one person that votes against it, it's a lawful denial. And then the only remedy with a lawful denial is the courts. It's that's who you appeal to is the courts. The Superior Court or the Land Court.
What's detrimental? What aspect zoning wise to the neighborhood is detrimental? That's what I'm failing to. If I could get that explained to me.
I think Jeff is saying that it's detrimental because not only perhaps not necessarily alone on the view that David Holmes is losing, but I think Jeff is arguing that it sets a precedent that's not in harmony with the neighborhood because we could have multiple houses surrounding your houses, whereas the people across the street see absolutely nothing.
How is that even taken into consideration?
Future event.
That's nothing that's happened.
Yeah, because that is, I think the point is fair because that really is the bylaw is not about what other people may do in the future. It's whether this individual project is substantially detrimental. It's not what other people may do. And I mean, I think there's plenty of room for adjusting the bylaw in the future, of course. Sure, but absolutely. it's the question is this particular project with these particular effects. Are those 5 feet substantially detrimental to the whole neighborhood?
Yeah, I doubt very much. And I'll say this, and you can consult with Attorney Bob Ritchie, who we both respect, a very formidable land use attorney, was town council of the town of Amherst, friend of Jeff, friends of mine. And I think he would come to the conclusion that future things are irrelevant. I think he would definitely come to that. I'd be shocked if he came to any other conclusion. I think we have to look at the effect that it has on David, the effect it has on the neighbors. I think that's what we have to look at, not a planning board. What's the best thing? Because I think your arguments, Jeff, is what is the best zoning laws to have. And you may be in fact right about that, but I just don't think this is the forum. I think the forum is the planning board and the town meeting in a change in the zoning bylaws that will not apply to them because they already made the application. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think these bylaws do apply to them.
Well, they do.
they do, whether the height's 28, 26, 35, it doesn't matter. They're on a non-conforming lot, they're in a special permit situation.
No question.
They don't get the 28 feet automatically at all. They have to have a discretionary permit for that.
No question about it.
So I am having Bob and another land use lawyer up to visit within the next week or two, I could trot them down there, show them the whole kit and caboodle, and see what they thought.
You show him this too, and show him all the photos, and show him the views that David Holmes has right directly across, right to the right, and show him all of that. You got to show him all of the evidence. And one question that you should ask him is whether or not what might happen in the future, although it's certainly relevant to when you draft bylaws, no question about it, it's relevant, but is it relevant to this case and this context? And I say it isn't, and I think the court would agree with me on that. But I don't always get it right with the courts, maybe only 95% of the time, but.
Does anybody have any objections?
This is Tessa. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
I just want to, for the minutes, can I have Bob's last name?
Bob Ritchie, R-I-T-C-H-I-E. Robert Ritchie.
Thank you. For the minutes, I needed that. Thank you.
The attorney Robert Ritchie, but
the dean of the College of Municipal Law and Knowledge.
He's very, and maybe he'll do a pro bono, but.
Yeah. And the other one is Joel Russell, who co-wrote the zoning bylaws with me.
Yeah, but again, I think it's important to look at this, not what the ideal zoning is. I think your arguments, Jeff, are very, very well stated as to what the ideal zoning bylaws might look like. You could say, if houses are within this kind of proximity to each other, the height should only be 23 feet, and you can write a zoning bylaw that says that, but that's not what it says right now. And I think you can argue, you can have a strong argument, and I really have problems with having the zoning board acting like the planning board. This is a planning board discussion, or it could be a zoning board discussion if you want to raise it to the zoning board for us to make a recommendation to the town meeting to change the bylaws. And we could do that too.
We've done this stuff before. We've done this stuff before.
I have no problem with either the zoning board or the planning board making these recommendations to town meeting to change the bylaws.
No.
But that's not what this case is.
No, we've done these height cases on the lake before.
Yes.
Where we've had some talks and discussions with the applicant while the hearing was open.
Oh, I have no problem with that.
And we arrived at a more acceptable approach. We didn't take the first approach presented. That's what I hope happens here.
I have no problem with that.
But I would like to. Sorry, Chuck. I would like to point out one of the things that the applicant brought up in the very beginning, which was that they already could have come to us with what they thought was a higher height, right? And that they looked at the previous things that we have approved. They went and saw those things, and they proposed a height that was what they thought was in line. And so it doesn't seem fair that because they already did some of the legwork, that now they have to come and adjust downward from that because they were trying, because they decided to start from a fair negotiating position to try to produce what was, something that was substantially in line with their neighborhood. I don't want them to be in a position where it would have been, gee, I should have proposed 28 feet and now let's all negotiate, and we ended up at 26 feet, which is where they,
Andy, it wasn't in line with the neighborhood. It's not the height of the abutters. It's well above.
There's a butter that's 40 feet from us that will have a higher height.
And a smaller lot.
40 feet, one lot over.
And that should have been taken into account when you purchased the property.
Yeah.
You can't build a mansion.
Why don't we? Look, we got other agenda items on the agenda, but why don't we just agree to find a date where Andy could comfortably be here.
Hold on.
And then we'll go on with the agenda. And Corey, you will see that the rest of the agenda is lightning speed. But it seems to me that Jeff could consult. The two of you, Megan and Stephen, you can maybe be in touch with me in 10 days. And we can have a conversation about whether you want to hire an attorney, you want to redesign it.
Forced to hire an attorney.
Or redesign. And I would argue that based on all the public records I've been able to glean, the discussion regarding reducing their proposed height was based on opposition by neighbors that are directly impacted by the property, not by someone's arbitrary read.
Well, we have a neighbor who is objecting.
To go further with the arbitrary, so we're supposed to design a house arbitrarily for
No, I'm not saying you should do anything different, but I'm just asking you to think about it. And obviously the other thing you can do is have a conversation with David to see if there's some kind of a meeting of the mind that could happen. I mean,
I think we've all concluded that David is not materially impacted by this. He is fundamentally opposed to this.
Well, he's impacted, but three of us say it's not substantial enough. One says it is. So
right, but he has a fundamental opposition to improvement in the area. It's different than the sliver.
He does have a
that
right. David has a right.
34 is concerned as well.
34 is
Not
concerned
just David.
too. Okay, 34 is, again, just so I know for the record, and Tessa can.
They're the ones that actually didn't oppose last time, but that's okay.
Are you across the street or are you beside him?
No, they're beside us. They're number 34. Karen
Okay,
Keegan and her daughter.
All right, so now you have two. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
I wanted to point out that there are two people here who have reservations, not just one. And my lunch date with Bob and Joel is Friday, the 6th of November.
Okay, and Andy cannot meet until after November 14th, I think the minutes say. Andy, what do you think after November 14th?
That's correct. You know, I will also note that, you know, we do have, you know, I would hate to be the delaying person. This, I'm really sorry. I've got a non-negotiable thing that I'm stuck. I can't. I'm stuck.
It's okay, Andy.
Let me go
It's
take
okay.
a look at my calendar
I
here.
think it's actually good that we have time to digest this and think about this and talk to each other. And, you know, the minutes suggest that you can't come until November. Is it November 14th? I forgot what you said.
It's roughly November 14th. Let me just take a look here.
So go a week after that. What is it?
The week of the 18th, the week of the 18th.
And when is and Thanksgiving would be the third Thursday?
Thanksgiving is the
26th.
26th, yep.
26th is Thanksgiving.
Wait a minute, third Thursday?
You're talking about the 19th? Is that what you're
The
suggesting?
19th.
Are you,
The third Thursday
are
is
you
the
available, Andy, on November 19th?
That's a conservation commission meeting.
All right.
I would not
Are
be,
you
but I could do the 18th. The 18th.
Are you available on the 18th, or should we go to the next week?
I am available on the 18th.
Does the 18th work for you, Herb? And you, Jeff?
How's that for you, Jeff?
Works for me. Applicants, does it work for you?
The 18th at 7 does not work for me.
That's Herb?
That's Herb.
Yep.
Okay. Want to go into the next week? How about the Monday, the 23rd? Does that work for everybody? Monday, the 23rd?
Yes.
Is that 11:23?
Yeah.
11:23. Does that work for you, Tessa?
Yes, as far as I'm aware. Yep.
And Herb, does that work for you?
Yes.
And does it work for you, Andy? 11:23?
That works fine for me. I think, do we have to have anything signed for the applicants if they want to continue it?
Yes, especially that kind of a thing. Tessa, you have something there that
I was gonna share that same form we had to share last time.
All right, let's do that. Okay. Let's do the same formalities as we did last week, and you'll I will sign based on an electronic sign. Why don't you put it up on the board right now?
Yep, 1 second, I'm trying to share it.
I'm still failing to understand the more detrimental part.
It's hard to understand because we all have difference of opinion about that. That's the problem.
Correct, but if I cut out 200 square feet, that's all of a sudden not less detrimental?
I mean, that's where you have to talk to your abutters and to Jeff about. I mean, you probably know I would approve it as is. So,
and I think yes.
I think that Andy would, and I think that Herb would. So,
So are you looking for a recitation of what my concerns were?
Yeah, why don't you do that? You should have them. But before we do that, let's continue this meeting. So you want to talk, Andy? Do you want to ask me if that's?
So this is actually Tessa is in control of this one. This is her computer.
I hereby authorize you to electronically sign my name and to date it today to continue this hearing. Use my formal name to continue this hearing until November the 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. And that's after polling the applicants and all the board members. We can all be available 11/23 at 7 p.m. Okay. And now as to the applicants, are you authorizing our land use clerk to sign your names, applicants?
Yes.
Okay, so you can sign their names now and date it today. And applicants, I have no problem if a week or two from now.
Yes.
And what we'll do once it's signed, and this will go to the town clerk tomorrow, to be filed with the town clerk tomorrow to make it official. We'll toll all statutes of limitations and all deadlines and filings, etc. And I invite the two of you to wait 10 days or so. Call me if you'd like. In the meantime, talk to your two abutters and see what may satisfy them. And Jeff, could you recite to them right now your objections so they can take that into consideration? Can you do that, Jeff?
Yeah, let me get the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, the minutes say Lacey has 5 concerns.
Okay.
Close proximity of the other houses, the ones on either side. The height of the neighboring houses are lower already. Encourages a wall of houses that could block view. Increased defoliation and clearing. A height advantage over other properties in terms of view of the lake. Could be detrimental to the neighborhood. And of course, in any type of decision, I would elaborate on that.
Okay, Jeff, can you also, if you feel comfortable with it, can you also give the applicants some guidance on what may change your position and get a yes vote in terms of how they can change this design?
Do most of the things that you're planning on doing with the first floor. Make the most out of the basement. Add a deck. Make the second floor, even though it's not going to be as high, improve that. Perhaps make it a little bit higher. Perhaps put in some modest dormers or skylights, or think of some things to make that a nicer space. And you'll have a much more valuable property, and it'll be far less conspicuous from the road and from other houses around.
Okay, so take that into consideration. Talk to your neighbors. If you want to call me in 10 days to see where we're at, you're going to have lunch with Bob Ritchie. When was that date again? November what?
It's November 6th.
Okay.
And David, may I bring them onto your property to have a look?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's not for the purposes of taking any more testimony or anything. It's just giving them a vantage point.
No problem.
Okay.
So Jeff, I had a question. So along with you requesting that we redesign our house, are you willing to grant a variance to use our lot across the street?
A lot across the street. Tell
we
us
have a
more
50
about
foot. We have a 50 foot by 100 foot lot. 2 lots over from David Holmes. That's vacant.
Is that directly across the street from your structure?
Is that the property that you own on the other side of the lake, or this other one that you just purchased? Because you own
Two down from David.
2 down from David, lot B123. It's a 50 by
so not
100
the one
foot
that
lot.
you own near the public beach.
Correct.
Because right, you own a number of properties around there, right?
Not sure how that's relevant.
Is it south of David?
We're talking about
Well, I'm just
32 here, my lot.
asking, right? You guys own a number of properties around there. Your family owns a bunch of stuff. Megan, you said that you grew up around here, right?
I mean, I just want to put out there that I don't know that that's, I want to keep it to the relevant portions.
You know,
I was just wondering which property they were talking about.
It's the one that's 2 lots down from David Holmes.
Yeah, I think that I think we have to go through a whole process to figure that out. So.
Right, but I get blindsided by this. I figure I'd ask.
Well, we're trying to, right now, we're in a discussion stage of the meeting. We're trying to see if we can work out something or get legal advice from someone else, at least get some education from Attorney Bob Ritchie and, maybe you want them to hear my arguments too, Jeff, but so he does not overly.
I'm confused about this meeting with Bob Ritchie. He's one of your friends, but yet you're not able to use the town council. I'm just very confused where he's drawing the line.
We could use the town council. We could use the town council.
Yeah, I mean, I get worried that, it feels like it's this meeting that's happening out of public view when there really are some, at least, some data that's going to be brought back to the board. And it just
then you're
feels
meeting
like,
with, you're meeting with the person that's most fundamentally opposed to growth here. It just seems very.
No, there's not going to be any meeting. No, there's not going to be.
Meeting with,
Jeff just asked to meet with David Holmes when
Mr.
Ritchie.
No, let me speak for a minute, please. No, I asked for permission to go on his property, but we can't meet. We can't have a discussion. It's only for the purpose of getting onto his property. He may or may not even be there. Bob Ritchie and Joel are 2 of my legal mentors, and they are the fastest people in the world to tell me I'm all messed up.
That's what I'm hoping they say, but
they certainly do very often. So,
and I do hope you represent appropriately the arguments that your other 3 board members made to him. In fact, if you're going to talk to him, you can have him call me if he wants to. Okay.
I just feel like there's a lot of.
Is it possible to get the minutes from these 2 meetings?
Yes, it's public record.
It wasn't published prior to this meeting, even though they're accepted.
No, we just approved it. You can have this immediately, so we can.
Okay, great.
I'm happy to send you the minutes that were approved tonight. That's why they have to be approved before they can be posted on the website. But
okay, I understand that.
That's the process.
We'll give you. This is approved. You can have these.
Thank you.
We also request that Megan and Stephen talk to the abutters at 34 Lake Drive.
The abutters should have been notified by mail at the beginning part of this process.
Talked with us yet, so could we have a conversation?
Well, I mean, that's up to all of you to have a conversation if you all want to. So if Stephen and Megan want to, that's okay.
We would love to. We welcome that conversation. Please
give me a call.
Please talk to us. We would love to.
Sure, Karen, we'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
We don't want to just have it outside of. We want to talk to you. Please.
Yeah. We like to have compromises. Believe me, a lot of this is worked out by compromises
in this forum.
There was no objection last meeting with that, so now I just see this going sideways for many reasons.
Pardon?
Can we just talk over the fence? Can we just talk?
Yeah, sure. But not now, because I have to go on with this meeting. This is a very long meeting. I usually get meetings done in 30 minutes, so we're here 3 hours now, I think. So we have to really end this now, and we're going to come back on November 23rd at 7 p.m. I want to fly through the rest of them. So the rest of you can stay if you want, but I'm going to move on to the second item of the agenda. And
thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
I will send you the minutes from last meeting, and when I get these typed up, I'm happy to send you guys those meetings too.
Okay. We have last week I put a motion on the agenda, discussion and vote to increase the application fees for special permanent variances from $300 to $400, from $300 to $400, and site plan reviews from $100 to $200. And my understanding is to make it lawful, we had to table it. So we tabled it from that September 30th date to tonight, October 14th. The motion is on the table. Is there any further discussion? We did have some discussion last week. If you want me to restate my reasoning for it, or any other discussion that you want, I'm happy to restate my reason. It's in, I think it's in the minutes, or if it's not, I think you remember what I said. Or do you want me to restate it?
I recall it. I think it was a good reason. Yeah.
Okay. So does someone, the motion's on the table. Does someone, are we ready to vote?
Motion to call the vote.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay. So I would suggest that it's not in effect until either December 1st or January 1st. I don't, you know, I think the public needs to have notice of this, and I think, you know, I prefer it be after the minutes are approved. The minutes aren't going to be approved until 11/23, so I prefer that either it goes into effect on December 1st or January 1st. Does anybody have an opinion about that?
To keep in
December
mind,
1st.
Andy Cloutier has put in an application, so it's whether you want. I mean, I think.
Well, he already put it in, so it won't apply to him. So why don't we just do it January 1st, make it clean, okay? Is that all right? All right.
I like that idea.
All right, all in favor of January 1st in effect? Okay.
Aye.
Okay. So make that test. So put that in the minutes. It's in effect. Fees are raised effective January 1st, 2021. Okay.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is education guidance. Is anybody, Corey, are you still there? Oh, he's already left.
No, I'm here.
You've had 3 hours of education. Do you need any more education? Do you have any questions for the zoning board?
Oh, I know better. No. This was fun. Thank you for letting me observe.
Corey, they're not all like this. This is probably one of the most contentious meetings, at least in terms of disagreement between board members. And we've had a few other contentious meetings with the public, but not with board members. So don't think they're all like this. They're usually much smoother than this.
Well, that's all right. This has been fun. I know it's important work and it's a good discussion. So Thank you for letting me watch.
Okay. All right. So no one else is here for education and guidance. Is that correct? I see a few. Is someone saying something? Does anybody want education and guidance? I see a few people. Andy, I see Mika. I see Tony's iPad. Does any of you want any education or guidance on any matters? Okay. No education and guidance. New business. Any new business?
No new business. No.
Oh,
Jeff has new business. Yes.
Go ahead, Jeff Lacy. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, this is new
We
business.
still love you, Jeff. We still love you. Go ahead.
This is new business since tonight, actually, based on this discussion that we've been having. And I would just like us to think about the responsibilities that we have under this, what's called a Section 6 finding in common parlance in Massachusetts. You know, this is where you try to decide whether you're going to let a non-conforming use or structure or something expand or rebuild or add on or do something when they don't have what they're supposed to have zoning wise. And usually it's lot or frontage or setback or something, or they're in the wrong district or whatever. So, and when you look at the lake, there are places on the lake where we probably will do one thing comfortably that we may not be able to do other places because the lake is different. The settings are different. The neighborhoods are different. And my battery is running really low. I'm about to go. But anyway, you know, some places are more suitable for these kinds of things than others. Houses are farther apart. There's nobody in the back. All the neighbors are gung-ho. You know, so we can do things in places like that we may not be able to do in other places. And this really calls for for an assessment of each neighborhood. And the neighborhood is, you know, is what you make it, what you think it is around there. So that's what I'd urge us to do. Just look at each neighborhood individually.
Well, you know, we could, as a board, the zoning board could do this, or the planning board can do this. And I think your point is well taken, Jeff, and I think it's a good idea. And the real question for me is it, should the zoning board do it? Should the planning board do it? You're the liaison to both boards. Maybe you do it and make a proposal to us, or you make a proposal to the planning board, or you make a proposal to both boards, or we can have a joint meeting with the planning board. But I believe strongly that, you know, I'm not in any way, shape, or form arguing with what you're saying, but I think it should be done as a matter of a zoning bylaw change, where we divide, like we have the town in 4 districts right now. We can have the Lake District, District A, District B, and District C, and apply different criteria to all of those. I have no problem with that. The problem I have is just applying what we think is the best thing to do, and I agree with some of your comments, Jeff, to an applicant that's before us at that time. That's my problem. So I don't mind doing it for future if we change the bylaws, and I have no problem with changing bylaws.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think what I would love would be if there was, you know, if there were limits that people were looking for, that those be you know, in codes somewhere, you know, that those, so that somebody who was looking to do this would have a real idea of what was and wasn't permitted. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that, you know, with potentially a bylaw amendment. You know, I'm just a little worried about, you know, having it. I think the clearer it is and the more code that's attached to it, the better. That's my perception. So that people know what they're dealing with, and that they come in
Yeah, they had designed. I'm sure they paid money to have those plans designed. You know, they spent 1.5 years of their time. They spent an enormous amount of time with the Conservation Commission and the health boards. I know that they did this because they were talking to me. I kept putting them off. I don't want this to be before the zoning board. I did that for about 1 year until I know you have approval of those 2 boards. It's, you know, and you know, so they were kind of following, you know, and it's a lot of time. I know because I've been before these boards too myself for my own applications. And, you know, as you know, Jeff, one of my applications took 3 years, and you know, to build my house initially, it took 1.5 years, you know, of permitting. It's a long time. And I think if something is actually written in the bylaws, you get better guidance.
Well, maybe when business is a little light for us, you know, if we have a meeting with one case, maybe we could put some discussion of this on the agenda. And
I think we should, but I think once the pandemic is over, I'm certainly in favor of all of us, if we have the time, if we're you can show us all the different areas of the lake and say, this is what I think this should be, this is what I think this should be.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can do that. Or if you think it's better suited for the planning board, they can do that. But I do agree with you. Either board can do that.
Yeah. You know, there's a number of different ways to go about it, but if we have a little extra time in our meetings, you know, we could generate some things that may help us with these kinds of cases, to get in there, to give us a little more to hang our hat on.
Okay. I still would prefer it as a bylaw change, though, rather than our own internal way of looking at it.
I think he just ran out of battery.
His battery has gone.
His battery just went.
Well, we didn't lose quorum.
Always getting there it is, Jeff, always getting the last word. There it is.
Well, we haven't lost quorum. Thank you for being here, Herb.
Hello, Herb, full member.
Member by fire.
Yeah.
All right. So is there any, okay, we'll go on to old business. Is there any old business? Okay. We already scheduled our next ZBA meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to mercifully adjourn.
I second that. Merciful motion.
What time is it, timekeeper? 10:02? Is that something?
10:01 is what I have.
10:01.
10:01.
Don't turn us off yet. Corey, any observations for us? Counselor, the trial court, what a judge would do. Corey's actually closer to what a judge would do than any of us are, since he He works with the judges.
What a fascinating meeting.
Was
It was
it?
a fascinating meeting. Yeah, absolutely.
See,
I'm sitting here. I'm
I
reading the
knew I
ghost.
should have gone into law instead of medicine. I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew
Herb
it
is
way back when.
Herb is a neurologist, or a neurosurgeon. I forgot which one you are, but an MD. And you know Andy, because you will both go back with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Tessa is our new land use clerk, her second meeting. And she's also the land use clerk. I don't know if that's your title for the town of Leverett, right?
Yeah, it's conservation agent for the Leverett.
Conservation agent. Corey, I'm just curious, Goshen, do they have conservation agents or land use clerks? Do you know?
I believe they've recently hired like a part-time town clerk.
Okay.
Yeah, they're desperate for bodies up here, I think, on board. So
the population's 1,000. We have closer to 2,000, so I understand it.
Most commissions are on their own. Most commissions are all volunteer and don't have a staff person.
Do you have any other observations, Corey, to educate us from a trial court perspective?
Nothing comes to mind.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, I think that Tessa, you can terminate the meeting.
All right.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you, Tessa.
I know it was quite an ordeal to take minutes in this kind of a situation.
It's gonna take a little time to type up. That's for sure.
Well, you got November 23rd. That gives you a little extra time.
There's that little stenography machine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if with this I should start learning a shorthand technique.
Not bad, maybe.
All
right, Tony, are you still here, Tony? Tony's iPad.
Tony's iPad. Tony didn't shut off.
Oh, I'm sorry to have to. I actually have to dash myself.
All right.
I gotta go.
It's really nice to see you all.
Bye, guys.
Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.